seemed elusive. On my way here, I sensed a presence that made my heart race. I must investigate what it is. As he spoke, Gu Yechen began preparing acupuncture for Chinyu. His serious tone made her acutely aware of the gravity of the situation. Upon hearing Gu Yechen's words, Chinyu was profoundly shocked. She was well aware of Gu Yechen's prowess. In her eyes, he was nearly omnipotent. However, if there was something that could cause him trepidation, it was undoubtedly no ordinary threat. Where is it? Chinyu inquired, her expression serious, her gaze filled with complex emotions. She was concerned for Gu Yechen's safety while simultaneously gripped by fear of the unknown danger. In the Eagle Sauce Kingdom's skies. But I need to be there to ascertain the specifics. If I am not mistaken, one of the portals for the otherworldly invasion lies within the Eagle Sauce Kingdom. Gu Yechen's expression turned grave, a trace of worry creeping into his tone. Although he wished to alert the Eagle Sauce Kingdom to prepare for the impending crisis, their previous provocations against the Huan nation had stirred conflicting sentiments within him. He was no saint, incapable of easily letting go of past grievances. Must you go? Chinyu gazed at Gu Yechen with reluctance. Yes, he nodded, sensing that the portal for the otherworldly invasion was already manifesting, merely awaiting connection. You must ensure your safety. Chinyu implored, fully aware that she could not dissuade Gu Yechen and resenting her own lack of strength to alleviate his burdens. Do not worry. I merely felt a momentary unease. Gu Yechen gently tousled her hair, his expression solemn. After parting, he swiftly soared towards the Eagle Sauce Kingdom. Soon, his figure appeared above its skies. There loomed a colossal eyeball-like entity, imperceptible to the ordinary eye, detectable only by specialized instruments. Gu Yechen observed the mountain peak below, gazing at the massive eye, which spanned at least the size of 2 football fields. This was merely its immature form. Once fully connected in a year, this area would likely be transformed into a purgatory. Looking around in astonishment, Gu Yechen noted the rapid revival of the surroundings, spotting several low-tier spiritual herbs. Fortune seems to favor me. I might procure some medicinal herbs. A slight smile crept across his lips as he swept away all the surrounding spiritual herbs, not intending to leave them for the Eagle Sauce Kingdom. After completing his task, he glanced upward to see the otherworldly passage continuing to expand, unperceived by the common populace. In a blink, Gu Yechen appeared near the giant eye. Although there was nothing tangible, he sensed a faint aura of danger, indicating that whatever lay beyond was at least at the nascent soul level. It seemed prudent for Gu Yechen to retreat and enter a period of seclusion. Before leaving, he summoned the Thunder Sword, unleashing a powerful sword energy upon the eye. Despite this, there was no response, not even a quiver, which genuinely surprised him. Looks like this is going to be interesting. Gu Yechen smirked. The Eagle Sauce Kingdom had long aspired to global dominance, perpetually undermining the Huan nation. Even now, despite suffering losses in the South China Sea, they had not retreated from those waters and continued to confront the Huan nation. This behavior was consistent with the Eagle Sauce Kingdom and Appo's pattern of uniting with other nations to impose economic sanctions on the Huan nation. Finding himself with nothing else to do, Gu Yechen departed on his sword, believing that the events of a year hence would pose little issue for the Huan nation. Other nations were of no concern to him. Before leaving, he utilized his powers to bombard the Pentagon of the Eagle Sauce Kingdom. While it did not collapse, it had certainly become a perilous structure. Satisfied, he departed. Upon returning to the Huan nation, Gu Yechen wasted no time. He called Ma Xin and arranged to meet him. The developments in the Eagle Sauce Kingdom were of paramount importance to the entire Huan nation and needed to be conveyed to Ma Xin promptly, ensuring that the nation could prepare accordingly. Don and Appos, tell me the incident at the Pentagon was your doing. Ma Xin, despite having his suspicions, could not contain his excitement. It certainly was. I merely administered a minor reprimand. Gu Yechen replied, handing Ma Xin a selection of tea leaves, suggesting he distribute them among the others. The tea emitted a delicate fragrance, adding a soothing ambience to the office. You've truly impressed me. You managed to disrupt the Pentagon. Ma Xin exclaimed, astonished, unable to fathom that Gu Yechen had appeared in the Eagle Sauce Kingdom and caused such a stir. Such trifles are hardly worth mentioning. It is the faith of the nation and its people that has empowered me to achieve this. Gu Yechen smiled, humility radiating from him as he poured a steaming cup of tea for Ma Xin, the rich aroma wafting through the air. Enough with the excessive modesty. It borders on insincerity. Your contributions to the Huan nation are immensely significant. Ma Xin playfully chided him, admiration evident in his eyes. Gu Yechen merely smiled and waved his hand dismissively. After sipping the tea, Ma Xion's eyes brightened. This is delightful. Where did you procure this tea? He inquired, feeling significantly more at ease. Is everyone here? Gu Yechen turned to Ma Xian, a glimmer of inquiry in his gaze. Ma Xian checked his watch and responded, they should be arriving shortly. Let us proceed. As he finished speaking, a knock echoed at the door. Come in, Ma Xian called steadily. Mr. Ma. The conference room is prepared. Everyone except for Lord Long has arrived, a secretary announced respectfully, her voice clear and concise, devoid of any superfluous remarks. I understand. Please return to your duties, Ma Xin replied with a smile, then turned to Gu Yechen. Shall we go? Gu Yechen immediately stood, gesturing for Ma Xin to lead the way. For him, it was best to leave the arrangements to Ma Xin and the other leaders, allowing him to focus on resolving the critical issues at hand. Why so respectful, my friend? Are you hiding any ill intentions? Ma Xin retracted his foot, gazing at Gu Yechen with a bemused expression, a hint of playful sarcasm in his eyes. You see, I merely wish to avoid trouble, Gu Yechen replied with a shrug, his face adorned with an expression of resignation. In his heart, he found the mundane affairs of state far less enjoyable than indulging in drinks, singing, or conversing with beautiful women. Yet, he understood the gravity of the crisis facing the nation at that moment. Thus, he felt compelled to contribute. For the preservation of the nation is a shared responsibility. To be candid, given your current status and capabilities, the nation benefits from your presence. I shudder to think what our country would become a year from now without you, Ma Xin remarked, his demeanor turning serious. He recognized that for Huagua, facing the impending catastrophe unprepared would spell a catastrophic blow, potentially leading to national annihilation. Even if Huagua could mount an immediate resistance, the second-tier magical beasts already possessed the ability to withstand artillery fire unscathed. What if ninth-tier magical beasts emerged? The repercussions would be unimaginable. Ma Xin could hardly bear to envision such a terrifying scenario and felt immense relief that Huagua had someone like Gu Yechen to assist. Therefore, whatever Gu Yechen chose to pursue, Huagua would offer unwavering support. This is nothing. I am a citizen of Huagua, merely doing what I can, Gu Yechen replied with a smile, noticing Ma Xian's contemplative mood. For him, whether in this life or the previous one, pride in being a Huagua citizen ran deep within. Huagua people are inherently endowed with the spirit and capability to create miracles. In his previous life, amid the harshest of wartime conditions, the ancestors of Huagua, with indomitable will and steadfast belief, triumphed in countless arduous battles, safeguarding the dignity and territorial integrity of the nation. In the realm of national defense, even when beset by internal strife and external threats, Huagua's researchers and builders persevered, successfully developing the nation's first formidable weapon, a blade of unparalleled sharpness that erected an unassailable defense. Moreover, Huagua resolved the age-old issue of food security that plagued Chinese civilization for millennia, marking an epic-defining achievement. It is crucial to remember that, prior to this, countless citizens had struggled in hunger for thousands of years, with the number of those who perished from starvation as numerous as the sands of the Yellow River. Many could afford only a single meal a day, resorting to desperate measures to stave off hunger. Thus, the blood of Huagua citizens flows with the essence of miraculous creation, enabling them to confront any adversity and transform the impossible into the possible. Listening to Gu Yechen's words, Ma Xin felt a surge of excitement. He clasped Gu Yechen's shoulder with enthusiasm, exclaiming, "Well said, my friend. I knew I was right about you. Let us go." Gu Yechen nodded, and the two walked side by side toward the conference room. I hear this meeting was convened at Yechen's behest, so he should make an appearance. Someone whispered in the conference room, curiosity lacing their tone. Indeed, and he must have something significant to discuss, otherwise he wouldn't have called us all here on such short notice. Another concurred, their collective gaze underscoring the importance of the gathering. At that moment, the attendees fervently exchanged thoughts on the recent surge of mutated animals, their expressions somber as they acknowledged the potential threats these aberrations posed to the nation and its citizens. Soon enough, the door to the meeting room was gently pushed open, revealing the figures of Ma Xin and Gu Yechen. Upon their entrance, everyone stood in unison, offering a gesture of respect to Ma Xin, who had ascended to the role of Prime Minister, shouldering the weighty responsibility of leading the nation forward. Prime Minister, the assembly called out in harmonious accord, their voices resonating throughout the room. Ma Xian smiled, gesturing for everyone to take their seats. He then occupied the first position to the right of the head of the table, purposefully placing Gu Yechen beside him. "Greetings, esteemed elders. I am Gu Yechen," he announced, surveying the assembly before taking his seat. The crowd was taken aback by Gu Yechen's youthfulness, their eyes brimming with admiration for his evident prowess. Chapter 409. The meeting. The abilities displayed by Gu Yechen, along with his remarkable feats, left everyone in awe, particularly his extraordinary skill of flying with a sword, which surpassed their wildest imaginations. Indeed, it is a pity he has no daughter. Otherwise, one would truly wish to forge a closer bond with Gu Yechen. Someone jested, eliciting light laughter from the crowd and easing the atmosphere significantly. As everyone engaged in lively discussion, the relaxed mood did not last long. "Prime Minister, did you summon us for a specific purpose?" the military district commander asked Ma Xian, his expression serious. Having experienced firsthand the terrifying potential consequences of the calamity that Gu Yechen had mentioned, he sensed subtle changes in the surrounding environment, unmistakably signaling danger, possibly heralding the emergence of more formidable creatures akin to the mutated bison. Let us wait for the Dragon Lord to arrive before we discuss this further. Ma Xian suggested with a smile, glancing at his watch as he mentally calculated the time. Shortly thereafter, the door to the conference room swung open again, and the Dragon Lord entered. Upon his arrival, everyone promptly stood up, their demeanor grave. After all, the Dragon Lord was the highest authority in the nation, embodying its core and spirit, representing the will and direction of the country, the very heart of their nation. The Dragon Lord smiled and gestured for everyone to take their seats. His gaze fell upon Gu Yechen, a glimmer of admiration shining in his eyes as he nodded appreciatively, exclaiming, "Truly, the waves of the Yangtze River push the waves ahead. You are even more exceptional than us." Observing Gu Yechen's striking countenance and piercing gaze, the Dragon Lord could not help but marvel at the young talent before him. Filled with great expectations, Gu Yechen slightly inclined his head, respectfully replying, "The Dragon Lord is the nation's stabilizing force. The rumors do not compare to meeting in person. I have long heard of your valor, and to see it firsthand is indeed a stroke of fortune." His words were imbued with deep respect for the Dragon Lord. The Dragon Lord regarded Gu Yechen, feeling a sense of warmth towards him. Upon closer inspection, he noted that Gu Yechen bore a slight resemblance to his daughter, which fostered a greater sense of kinship. "No need for such formality. We need not speak in such terms," the Dragon Lord replied with a smile, his tone amiable. At this moment, the atmosphere in the conference room turned solemn and serious. "Yichun, I did not expect you to be so eloquent." Ma Xian chuckled, surprised by Gu Yechen's adeptness at flattery. Once the group's mood had settled, the Dragon Lord's expression turned serious as he fixed his gaze on Gu Yechen, asking earnestly, "Yichen, you must have extremely important matters to discuss. Please elaborate." Gu Yechen nodded, his expression turning grave. Rising to his feet, he scanned the room before beginning. "Esteemed leaders, you have likely noticed the recent surge of mutated animals is no mere coincidence. This is merely the beginning. In 1 year, an unprecedented disaster will descend upon us, originating from another realm, as powerful magical beasts will surge into our world through a connecting portal. As we currently understand, even the second-tier magical beasts possess the capability to withstand artillery fire. If higher-tier beasts emerge, their destructive potential is unimaginable." Upon hearing this, the faces of the assembly shifted. Fully aware of the gravity of the situation, and murmurs of concern rippled through the room. The Dragon Lord furrowed his brow, his gaze piercing as he inquired, "Yichun, do you have any strategies for countering this threat?" Taking a deep breath, Gu Yechen continued, "Firstly, we must expedite our research efforts, particularly in the development of mecha technology. I have incorporated elements into the mecha design that transcend our current technological capabilities, such as laser blades and laser cannons, which may prove crucial in combating the magical beasts." The military district commander nodded, adding, "In addition, we must strengthen our military defense systems to enhance our forces and Oppo's ability to respond to such extraordinary situations. Furthermore, we need to ensure the public is reassured and educated to prevent unnecessary panic." Ma Xian chimed in terms of research and development, we will increase our investment and deploy our finest researchers to fully support the mecha development. However, time is of the essence. We must act swiftly. Yichun, you must have more critical information to share, correct? The Dragon Lord inquired with a smile. Surprised that this was noticed, Gu Yechen nodded and stated, "Everyone, please look at the documents in your hands." He handed materials to an assistant, who distributed them among the attendees. As the group began to peruse the files provided by Gu Yechen, recognizing the importance of the information, someone asked, "Is what you provided genuine?" Gu Yechen affirmed, "Indeed. There is nothing concealed within." "What is this?" someone inquired, glancing at the peculiar images. "The connection portal. Yesterday, I sensed an unusual aura that stirred my heart, prompting me to travel to the Eagle Nation." Gu Yechen began to recount his experience. "Are you suggesting that the interdimensional passage will be here in a year?" Another person responded incredulously, eyeing the images. "Indeed, and there are undoubtedly entities within that possess greater power than I do now," Gu Yechen replied calmly. The revelation that there existed beings even stronger than Gu Yechen caused a ripple of anxiety among the assembly. They were somewhat aware of Gu Yechen's abilities. But if even he could not contend with these entities, the consequences would be dire. "Moreover, I discovered this on a peak in the Eagle Nation," Gu Yechen declared as he placed a mystical herb on the table. "What is this?" The group crowded around, excitement evident in their expressions as they examined the herb. "A mystical herb," Gu Yechen stated simply. Upon hearing his answer, astonishment washed over everyone. They understood that such phenomena would emerge following the resurgence of spiritual energy, but they had not anticipated its arrival so swiftly. "Yichen, what are your thoughts?" The Dragon Lord pondered for a moment before resolutely stating, "Esteemed leaders, this disaster concerns the very survival of our nation. We must dedicate ourselves fully. Yichun, express any needs you may have, and the nation will offer its unwavering support." Gu Yechen felt a warmth within and smiled, expressing gratitude. "I appreciate the trust and support from the Dragon Lord and all esteemed leaders. I wish to establish an intelligence network to promptly monitor anomalies worldwide, allowing us to prepare in advance. Additionally, we need a comprehensive system for the collection and distribution of cultivation resources. The Dragon Lord immediately agreed. Very well. I will delegate these matters to the relevant departments for implementation. Ma Xian, you are responsible for coordinating efforts, ensuring all tasks proceed in an orderly manner. Ma Xian nodded solemnly. Yes, Dragon Lord. I will begin my seclusion now. Prior to this, I will take a group of individuals to serve as the foundation for training. They will manage various recruitment tasks at Kunlun Mountain in my stead. Gu Yechen finally articulated his intentions, turning his gaze to everyone present. Chapter 410, Seclusion. Upon hearing Gu Yechen's words, everyone was filled with confusion, unsure of what he meant or why seclusion was necessary. Indeed, after arriving in the Eagle Nation, I could sense a disquieting presence, indicating that the otherworldly forces were undoubtedly more formidable than I. Thus, I must enter seclusion to wholeheartedly enhance my cultivation in preparation for the events to unfold in a year's time. Gu Yechen articulated his thoughts aloud. The onlookers wore solemn expressions. They had witnessed Gu Yechen and Appo's prowess, and if even he felt the need for seclusion, it was evident how formidable their adversary must be. I have several concerns. Firstly, the development of the mechas. Once I enter seclusion, the mechas, without the use of missiles, will be our primary combat force. And I require your coordination on this matter. Secondly, the issue of mutated animals appearing nationwide. I suspect their numbers will continue to rise. It would be prudent to inform the populace in advance, preparing them for the impending situation and announcing the developments expected in a year. Let them judge for themselves what to believe. Thirdly, if we encounter mutated creatures akin to the mutant bison, we must resolve the issue promptly to avoid any uncontrollable incidents. Gu Yechen surveyed the crowd. Yechen, how long will you be in seclusion? Ma Xian inquired, his concern evident. I cannot say for certain. It will be at least 6 months. After that, I will reassess the situation, Gu Yechen replied after a moment's contemplation. 6 months? The crowd was taken aback by the duration. After all, 6 months is quite a long time. Indeed, I am uncertain how powerful our opponents are, so I must enhance my abilities as much as possible. At the very least, I will be in seclusion for 6 months, after which I will assess the status of the sect and the nation before continuing my retreat. Gu Yechen was never one to underestimate the situation. He understood the necessity of seclusion. Very well, during these 6 months, we will strive to increase the number of mechas to 20, significantly alleviating the pressure, Ma Xian stated. You need not worry too much. I have already made modifications to the spiritual energy in Kunlun Mountain. It is now abundant, and when they reach the peak of Qi refinement, I will send them down the mountain for practical training to establish a solid foundation for foundation building. This should also ease the burden. Noting the seriousness on everyone and Appo's faces, Gu Yechen smiled. That is reassuring, Longzhu spoke. Gu Yechen addressed the group. How are your respective tasks progressing? The workload is considerable, but rest assured, Mr. Gu, personnel have been steadily arriving during this period. We will ensure that the border is fortified to prevent any unauthorized entry by enemies, a representative from the engineering department assured. Everyone shared updates on their responsibilities and tasks, each member bustling with activity, aware that time was of the essence. For the people of Huagua, turning the impossible into reality is commonplace. Therefore, Gu Yechen believed they could establish a formidable first line of defense against the impending events in a year. Everything seems to be proceeding well. It appears I can enter seclusion with peace of mind, Gu Yechen said with a smile. After departing, he sent messages to all his women to keep them informed and alleviate any concerns before soaring away on his sword. In the sky, as Gu Yechen passed over a golf course, he paused, gazing down with a hint of perplexity. Why is she here? Gu Yechen murmured to himself before descending directly. On the golf course, 2 groups of people were present. One group consisted of several men gathered to enjoy tea and converse, clearly relishing their leisurely lives. The other group, comprising both men and women, appeared to be discussing matters related to film production. Have you heard that the Fu family has been annihilated? A young man remarked after sipping his tea. Yes, it reportedly happened this morning. No one knows what triggered it, but their entire family has perished, save for the servants, who are now left in a state of shock, another responded. Who could have done this? Any news? The young man inquired. Unknown. The police have not disclosed much. And there are no leads. All surveillance footage has been destroyed, leaving no trace behind, came the reply. Could it be the work of foreign forces? The young man speculated but quickly dismissed the thought. However, the nation is currently expelling foreigners, so that theory seems unlikely. Let us move on from that. What are your thoughts on the sudden conscription and the closing of the borders, with all citizens being recalled? Li Yi. The government's decisions are often rooted in reasons beyond our comprehension. Something significant must be occurring that has yet to be communicated, a member of the group responded. The young man was the current president of the second-ranking Li family in Kyoto, possessing striking looks and a well-built physique. He was known for his aloofness towards women. often seen with a string of prayer beads in hand. However, his complexion appeared pale, accompanied by a slight cough. As they conversed, a sudden commotion erupted from a distance. Damn it. As an actor, I paid you to film, and you treat me with such disdain? What use are you to me if you want even let me touch you? A portly man shouted at the two women, raising his hand to slap the leading woman. Qin Shuang'er covered her reddened cheek, tears brimming in her eyes as she gazed at the man before lowering her head. Feeling utterly helpless, even in the face of violence, she could not retaliate, lest she risk being blacklisted by the industry. Lift your head and look at me. The man sneered at Qin Shuang'er, his frustration boiling over as he had spent considerable money only to be met with resistance. What is happening? Li Bei inquired, turning to his companions. Not sure, probably a dispute. It doesn't concern us, one man replied. Such matters could be resolved with a mere word. Yet no one would altruistically assist a stranger, even if she were a woman. Li Bei cast a glance before averting his gaze. Qin Shuang'er did not raise her head, and the man, now infuriated, struck her on the opposite cheek, causing swelling to appear on both sides of her face. Though Li Bei was not one to engage with women, he could not stand idly by while a man assaulted her. He rose, directing his gaze at the assailant and advancing towards him. His companions understood the unspoken intent and stood with him, as Li Bei had often intervened in such situations. Just as they approached, a sword descended from the sky, embedding itself before Qin Shuang'er, effectively separating her from the man, and in an instant, severing the assailant's hand. The onlookers stared in disbelief, their mouths agape. Even Li Bei was taken aback by the display of power. A figure gracefully descended from the sky, landing directly in front of Qin Shuang'er. Feeling a surge of anxiety, she did not recognize this individual, but sensed that without their intervention, she would have faced dire consequences today, and perhaps her assistant would have suffered as well. Who are you to act so brazenly here? Someone behind the assailant shouted. The man, clutching his severed wrist, emitted a blood-curdling scream, wailing for his mother in a profoundly disturbing manner. Silence, Gu Yechen commanded, his hand striking the speaker and sending him flying 10 meters away, rendering him unconscious. Witnessing Gu Yechen and Appo's display of strength left everyone dumbfounded. What kind of power could send a man flying with a single slap? What would happen if that force were unleashed upon them? The man, who had been screaming, abruptly stifled his cries, tears streaming down his face. Gu Yechen regarded him coldly. What is your name? Gritting his teeth and enduring the excruciating pain. The man trembled as he responded, Fu Sheng. Upon hearing his name, Gu Yechen raised an eyebrow and chuckled. What is your relationship with the Fu family? Fu Sheng, feeling a sense of alertness, replied, I have no connection to the Fu family. Though I share the surname Fu, I am not related to them at all. Deep down, he was fully aware of his ties to the Fu family but pretended otherwise, attempting to deceive me. Do you take me for a fool? Gu Yechen coldly retorted. Fu Xing was taken aback, then vehemently denied. I truly have no relation to them. It's merely a matter of sharing a surname. Still trying to wriggle out of the situation, harboring deceit, he is already on the path to ruin. Gu Yechen fixed a chilling gaze on him, swiftly striking him down, reducing him to a mere mist of blood, before turning to face Qin Shuang'er. Miss Qin Shuang'er, what a surprise to encounter you here. Gu Yechen said with a subtle smile. Qin Shuang'er regarded her savior with a sense of familiarity, yet she could not quite place him. To alleviate the awkwardness for her benefactor, she smiled and replied, Indeed, it has been quite a while. I did not expect to see you here. However, she still could not recall the specifics, merely sensing a connection with the man before her. Sometimes, the more one attempts to recall a matter, the more elusive it becomes. A peculiar phenomenon indeed. Qin Shuang'er found herself in such a predicament, feeling an inexplicable familiarity and warmth towards Gu Yechen, yet the details eluded her grasp. What brings you here? Gu Yechen inquired with a smile. I am here to discuss a script, but unexpectedly. Qin Shuang'er sighed, realizing that her endeavor almost led her into peril. Gu Yechen observed her slightly flushed, swollen cheeks, his expression turning grave as he reached out, intending to offer her healing. However, as he extended his hand, Qin Shuang'er instinctively stepped back, an embarrassed smile gracing her features. Gu Yechen shook his head with a smile. You are still the same as before. Qin Shuang'er was even more bewildered. She could discern from Gu Yechen's words that they were indeed acquainted, though she was unsure of the depth of their familiarity. Yet, his act of saving her left her in a quandary. Have you forgotten me? Gu Yechen asked with a playful smile. This was quite normal. After all, they had only met once, yet he was certain that she had some impression of him. Qin Shuang'er smiled awkwardly and admitted, I truly cannot recall, but you do seem familiar, just can't place where from. Gu Yechen stored the thunder sword within himself. Since achieving the golden core stage, he had kept the sword close, allowing him to become intimately acquainted with it, though he would eventually need to change swords. This practice did not hinder him. I am Gu Yechen. I wonder if Miss Qin remembers me? He said with a gentle smile, his gaze softening as it fell upon Qin Shuang'er. Upon hearing his name, Qin Shuang'er's eyes lit up, and she exclaimed, Now I understand why you seem so familiar. It is indeed you. She recalled the young man who had once jokingly claimed he would sleep with her, a mere boy in her eyes. At that time, she thought he was jesting, and since he had not sought her out afterward, she had not given it much thought. Though the encounter had left a lasting impression, especially given his bold declaration. Does it hurt? Gu Yechen asked, observing her cheeks, and gently brushed his fingers against them. Lost in her memories, Qin Shuang-er was caught off guard by his touch. By the time she realized what had happened, Gu Yechen had already withdrawn his hand, leaving her blushing furiously. How could he act so? Qin Shuang-er and Appos, as heart raced, Gu Yechen had saved her twice, which deeply moved her. Yet did that mean she must surrender herself to him? She glanced up, secretly assessing Gu Yechen. He was handsome and charming, embodying every adjective that could describe an ideal man, including a hint of cruelty. Such a striking figure, coupled with undeniable prowess, was offering herself to him truly out of the question? Qin Shuang-er mused internally, then startled herself with her thoughts, hastily shutting her eyes to dismiss the audacious idea. Seeing the myriad of expressions flit across Qin Shuang-er's face, Gu Yechen found it amusing and remarked, I wonder if the opportunity to sleep with you has arrived now, for I did declare my intentions back then. You. Qin Shuang-er was taken aback by his bluntness. Could he not keep such remarks to himself? In an instant, she felt as if the ground could swallow her whole. Her cheeks, ears, and neck aflame with embarrassment. How can you say such things here? Qin Shuang-er trembled, unable to meet Gu Yechen and Appos' gaze. Nearby, her assistant observed their exchange, utterly astonished. She glanced between Qin Shuang-er and Gu Yechen. Her curiosity piqued, yet she dared not intrude, fearing to disrupt the moment. Gu Yechen chuckled and proposed, if this is not an appropriate venue, shall we find a more private place to converse? You. Qin Shuang-er stammered, at a loss for words, yet feeling an undeniable reluctance to refuse. Gu Yechen regarded her reddened cheeks, placing his palm gently upon her swollen visage, instantly alleviating her pain and restoring her complexion to its former smoothness. This gesture left everyone present in sheer astonishment. The onlookers from Li Bei were equally taken aback, their expressions a mix of excitement as they turned their attention to Gu Yechen. Li Bei clenched his fists tightly before releasing them and stepping forward towards Gu Yechen. Chapter 411. I am not an ordinary person. Upon sensing the change in her complexion, Qin Shuang-er was taken aback. She reached up to touch her cheek, which was neither painful nor swollen anymore, and her gaze towards Gu Yechen softened with emotion. How did you accomplish this? She exclaimed, her hand grasping Gu Yechen and Appos' in surprise. Curious to know? Gu Yechen replied, affectionately ruffling her hair with a smile. Qin Shuang-er nodded, entirely oblivious to his gesture. Her beautiful eyes remained fixed on him. Kiss me, and I and Appos' share the secret. Gu Yechen teased, gesturing to his handsome visage with a faint smile. Qin Shuang and Appos' blushed, caught off guard by his request. The memory of Gu Yechen's earlier touch on her cheek flooded back to her, igniting a wave of embarrassment. Yet, her curiosity about the principle behind his miraculous touch prevailed. Why had merely cradling her face restored it to its original state, even better than before? Lost in thought, Qin Shuang-er stood on her tiptoes and gently kissed Gu Yechen's cheek. Her face flushed as she averted her gaze, fidgeting with the hem of her clothing. Gu Yechen chuckled, brushing his cheek as he looked at her. Not bad, not bad. Since you did that, I shall reveal to you that I am not an ordinary person. Qin Shuang-er shot him a playful glare, exclaiming, given that you can appear before me as if descending from the heavens, you are certainly no ordinary individual. You may consider me a cultivator, Gu Yechen replied, patting her head. Upon hearing his words, Qin Shuang and Appos' widened her eyes in surprise. She had harbored some suspicions, but never imagined them to be true. You have truly astonished me, she said, regaining her composure. Greetings, Gu Yechen. At that moment, Li Bei and his companions approached, extending a hand towards Gu Yechen. Gu Yechen regarded Li Bei with a furrowed brow. Observing Gu Yechen's demeanor and his delay in reciprocating the handshake, Li Bei's hand lingered awkwardly in the air. Gu Yechen said nothing but offered a brief handshake. Mr. Li, what brings you here? Li Bei was momentarily taken aback. Despite never revealing his surname, Gu Yechen had discerned it instantly, leaving him astonished. Mr. Gu, having witnessed your remarkable skills earlier, I wish to request your assistance. Compensation is negotiable. May I inquire if you are available? Request my assistance. It seems we are not acquainted, and how can you be certain I can help you? Gu Yechen replied with a smile, voicing his skepticism. I happened to see you treating this young lady and Appos' as facial injuries, which led me to believe you possess the capability, Li Bei continued. Glancing at Qin Shuang and Appos', Gu Yechen understood that even without his intervention, Li Bei would have acted. He just happened to arrive first. You may share the details, and I shall consider it, he said, not opposed to the idea, as it would not consume much of his time. My grandfather has been suffering from sudden headaches recently, leaving him bedridden and in torment. We have consulted numerous doctors and explored various treatments, yet nothing has proven effective. I apologize for my abruptness and hope you can forgive me, Li Bei explained, lacking the demeanor of a corporate president. Appearing more like a grandson pleading for his grandfather's health. Is his pain akin to being gnawed upon by countless ants, persisting for an hour without any relief? Rendering his existence worse than death? Gu Yechen inquired, a serious expression crossing his face. Li Bei and Appo's eyes brightened at his words. Indeed, each episode is like that, and the frequency has been increasing lately. Gu Yechen shrugged. This is not a difficult matter. Your grandfather has been poisoned, suffering from chronic poisoning that hospitals fail to detect. Prolonged exposure leads to such a condition. As Gu Yechen spoke, a surge of anger welled within Li Bei, who had not anticipated that his grandfather had been poisoned. You need not be enraged. You are also affected by the same affliction, Gu Yechen said with a smile. Li Bei was taken aback, staring at Gu Yechen in disbelief. He had not expected to learn of his own poisoning, yet he had sensed something amiss within himself. Could we perhaps sit over there to discuss this further? Li Bei gestured toward a nearby area where they had previously relaxed and chatted over tea. Gu Yechen nodded, taking Qin Shuanger's hand as they moved ahead. Once seated, he playfully pinched her cheek, eliciting a rapid heartbeat that felt overwhelming, as if she were unwell. Li Bei poured a cup of tea for Gu Yechen, gesturing for him to drink. After a sip, Gu Yechen set the cup down. Li Bei observed him curiously. As the tea he had served was imported and valued at no less than 10 million per kilogram, yet Gu Yechen had only taken a single sip. Mr. Gu, is the tea to your liking? Li Bei could not help but inquire. For him, tea was a tranquil experience, a means to attain serenity. The tea is mediocre. Not as good as mine, Gu Yechen replied with a smile. Li Bei's companions bristled at the remark. How could they endure such a slight to their precious tea? Might we sample Mr. Gu's tea? We have yet to experience anything superior and would be eager to try it, a young man suggested, his tone less than pleasant. Gu Yechen nodded amiably. There is no harm in that. If you wish to try, then by all means. As he spoke, Gu Yechen waved his hand, and a leaf of tea materialized, exuding a delicate fragrance even before brewing. The onlookers were initially captivated not by the aroma, but by Gu Yechen's extraordinary ability. The young man, witnessing Gu Yechen conjure tea from thin air, felt a heavy weight in his heart, fearing Gu Yechen might retaliate for his earlier remarks. He recalled the moment Gu Yechen had effortlessly transformed someone into a mist of blood, swallowing hard as he silently hoped for leniency. After preparing the tea, Gu Yechen poured a cup for everyone, smiling, give it a try. Chapter 412. Li family. The onlookers were profoundly astonished as they beheld the teacup before them. They had been closely observing Gu Yechen's brewing method and inhaling the enticing aroma of the tea, which was irresistibly captivating. After taking a sip, Li Bei felt transformed. He realized that the tea he had previously valued at 10 million a pound now tasted as insipid as water. What do you think? Gu Yechen noted their expressions with a subtle smile playing at the corners of his lips. In comparison to your tea, mine pales in quality. I wish to purchase some of your tea. What is the price? Li Bei inquired, estimating that such exquisite tea must start at no less than 20 million, considering it was the finest he had ever tasted. Let us first discuss your grandfather and your family's matters. Gu Yechen's demeanor shifted to one of seriousness, inducing a sense of tension among Li Bei and his companions. It appears your family has been afflicted by various ailments. Your parents and sister seem well, but you and your grandfather face greater challenges. Gu Yechen scrutinized Li Bei, revealing his observations candidly. Mr. Gu, do you have any knowledge of who has inflicted this harm? Li Bei's gaze sharpened with an unusual intensity, his aura shifting considerably. That is something you must investigate on your own, Gu Yechen stated, understanding that certain matters require personal resolution. Can you assist us with our situation? Li Bei's anxiety was palpable as he looked at Gu Yechen, whose calm visage belied the tension beneath. This is hardly a significant issue, Gu Yechen shrugged, treating the matter with the ease of dining or drinking water. He produced a porcelain vial, placing it on the table. Here are 2 pills, priced at 1 million each. Consuming one will alleviate your troubles. As for your grandfather, he will require acupuncture treatment, which should result in his recovery after just 1 session. A faint smile remained on Gu Yechen's face, exuding an extraordinary grace. Without hesitation, Li Bei paid 2 million, immediately consuming one of the pills without a second thought. Are you not concerned I might have poisoned it? Gu Yechen was taken aback, surprised by Li Bei's audacity. The pill dissolved instantly, unleashing a surge of energy within him. Though not spiritual power, the medicinal force was undeniably potent, causing Li Bei to wince as it coursed through him. Yet, he sensed a gradual improvement with each surge, his spirits lifting incrementally. Thank you, Mr. Gu, for your generosity. Li Bei stood, bowing slightly in gratitude. His companions were astonished. The fearless Li Bei had just bowed to another, completely shattering their previous perceptions. How do you feel, Brother Li? One of his friends asked, concern etched on his face, though noticing Li Bei and Appo's improved demeanor brought him some relief. I feel remarkable. I can perceive a distinct change in my body, Li Bei replied, a smile gracing his lips. He had not anticipated experiencing a day of recovery. Brother Gu, may I request some of that medicine for us as well? Li Bei's friends gazed at Gu Yechen with eager eyes. Very well, treating you will cost 10 million. Please proceed with payment. Gu Yechen addressed them, redirecting his attention to Li Bei. As Li Bei penned a check, Gu Yechen interjected, I do not accept checks. A bank transfer will suffice. Li Bei nodded, finding no objection to Gu Yechen's terms. Recognizing the strength he possessed and the potential benefits of cultivating a relationship with him. Let us depart, Gu Yechen announced, rising and taking Qin Shuang's hand. Fixing his gaze on Li Bei with an air of authority. Where are we going? Li Bei instinctively pursed his lips, puzzled by Gu Yechen's intentions. With a sigh, Gu Yechen explained, shall we not check on your grandfather? Or do you believe you can remedy the situation yourself? His smile was gentle, yet his eyes conveyed seriousness. Li Bei had never encountered anyone who dared to speak to him in such a manner, yet he felt no anger towards Gu Yechen. He understood the depths of Gu Yechen's capabilities. It was evident that the entire Li family could not hope to gain the upper hand against him. Apologies. We should proceed. Li Bei quickly stood, gesturing for his friends to attend to their own matters, then led Gu Yechen to visit his grandfather. Will you accompany me? Gu Yechen turned, his gaze softening as he looked at Qin Shuang, an expression of affection in his eyes. Qin Shuang shook her head gently, her voice soft. I have other matters to attend to. May I leave first? Her eyes held a hint of regret, yet there was also a sense of relief. Gu Yechen smiled, affectionately ruffling her hair, of course, but remember my words, I intend to claim what is mine. No sooner had he spoken than he pressed his lips against hers in a forceful kiss. This sudden display of passion rendered Qin Shuang momentarily speechless, her eyes wide as she processed the loss of her first kiss. Her assistant stood in shock, unable to fathom witnessing such intimacy in this context. Even more astonishing was Qin Shuang's lack of resistance. Instead, she subtly pursed her lips, an unconscious reaction that left her assistant astounded. Though a renowned actress, Qin Shuang had always adhered firmly to her principles, never engaging in intimate scenes. Yet, the unfolding scene before her shattered all previous notions of the actress's character. Dazed by Gu Yechen's assertive kiss, Qin Shuang gradually regained her senses. Her cheeks flushed crimson as she instinctively pushed against Gu Yechen's chest, desperate to escape the turmoil his kiss had instigated. However, her seemingly feeble attempts at resistance only fueled Gu Yechen's desire, igniting a fire within him that was increasingly difficult to contain. Breathless, Qin Shuang realized her efforts were futile. Reluctantly, she began to yield, wrapping her arms around Gu Yechen's neck, prompting him to gently place his hands on her waist. This movement elicited another involuntary shiver from her. Her assistant, witnessing her employer's unexpected compliance, stood in stunned silence. Reflexively, she reached for her phone, capturing the moment as evidence to avoid reprimand, while also wanting to document this extraordinary event. Then, she hastily closed her eyes, clasping her hands together, murmuring, I know nothing. This does not concern me. I shall neither see nor hear. Yet, despite her protests, the allure of watching was irresistible, and she found herself peeking through her fingers, unable to resist observing the unfolding drama. Gu Yechen gently released Qin Shuang after kissing her, leaving her dazed with her enchanting peach blossom eyes slightly hazy. As the sensation of his lips faded, Qin Shuang who awoke from her reverie. A sudden shock coursed through her as she recalled that she had willingly reciprocated Gu Yechen's kiss, causing her cheeks to flush a deep crimson. She hastily covered her face with her hands, too shy to meet his gaze. How could you do that? She pouted playfully, her petite fists lightly tapping against his chest, her demeanor resembling more of a playful petulance than genuine anger. You seem to quite enjoy it, Gu Yechen chuckled, gently brushing his finger against the tip of her nose, and then tenderly drew her into his embrace. Qin Shuang did not resist. Instead, she nestled her head against his chest. To her surprise, she discovered that she rather enjoyed the sensation of being passionately kissed by Gu Yechen and found herself secretly yearning for him to kiss her again. A thought that left her feeling slightly unhinged. Shall we go? Unbeknownst to them, Li Bei had already driven his luxurious Rolls-Royce to the entrance of the golf course. He rolled down the window and extended an invitation to Gu Yechen. Nodding in acknowledgement, Gu Yechen turned back to Qin Shuang smiling as he asked, Are you truly not coming with me? His eyes sparkled with a hint of playful mischief. Qin Shuang shook her head once more, waving her hand at him with a gentle expression. I have things to attend to. If you're capable enough, I shall wait for you to come and claim me. With newfound courage, she leaned in and planted a soft kiss at the corner of his lips before gently pushing him toward the car. Gu Yechen chuckled helplessly. With his capabilities, it would be child and amp, play to claim Qin Shuang and amp, entirely. Had it not been for the pressing matters at the Li family estate, he might have immediately drawn her into his arms and done just that. Let us be on our way, he said to Li Bei, who nodded in agreement and instructed the driver to depart. The Li family manor, perched upon a hill in the outskirts of Kyoto, was surrounded by picturesque scenery and fresh air, a veritable paradise. Throughout the journey, Gu Yechen maintained his silence, resting with his eyes closed, though an air of undeniable authority around him kept the atmosphere tense. Young master, as soon as Li Bei alighted from the car, a servant approached. Uncle Wang, how is my grandfather faring? Li Bei inquired of an elderly gentleman, the family steward who had served the Li family for 30 years. Uncle Wang sighed heavily. The situation has worsened since yesterday. The old master has hardly eaten today and has even vomited once. Upon hearing this, Li Bei trembled slightly, his brow furrowing in concern. Mr. Gu, this way, please. Li Bei gestured to Gu Yechen, inviting him to his grandfather's room for treatment. Gu Yechen had been observing the layout of the Li estate, sensing a subtle issue within the house, but choosing to remain silent as he followed Li Bei. Grandfather, I brought a doctor to examine your health, Li Bei announced as he knocked on the door and stepped inside. Brother? Gu Yechen entered as well, only to be met by a young woman stepping through the threshold. Her icy demeanor and tall, striking figure rivaling that of Han Shuxia. Well, what brings you back? Li Bei asked, surprised by the arrival of his sister, Li Qinghua, the manager of the Li Group, a talented graduate from a prestigious university with an exceptional disposition. I had some free time, so I thought I'd come check on grandfather, Li Qinghua replied, glancing at her brother with curiosity. What is going on? Li Bei sighed, explaining. I brought a doctor to take a look at grandfather. Li Qinghua turned her gaze toward Gu Yechen, but since he was facing away, she only noted his impressive physique. Hello, I'm Li Bei and Apos' sister, Qinghua. She introduced herself, addressing Gu Yechen and Apos' back. Upon hearing her voice and sensing her gaze upon him, Gu Yechen turned to smile gently at Li Qinghua. Hello, I'm Gu Yechen. In that fleeting moment, as Gu Yechen turned, Li Qinghua was momentarily taken aback by his appearance, feeling an unexpected flutter in her heart. She quickly masked her nervousness. You're a doctor? You're quite young, she remarked, astonished as she hadn't anticipated her brother would find such a youthful and handsome physician. Gu Yechen smiled, shaking his head modestly. I'm not a doctor, but I can treat many ailments. Perhaps our paths crossed for a reason. Li Qinghua's spirits lifted at his response, and she laughed. Is this your way of flirting with me? Perhaps, Gu Yechen shrugged, not denying it. After all, who wouldn't appreciate beauty? Rather than feeling offended by his straightforwardness, Li Qinghua found it refreshing. No one had ever dared to speak to her in such a manner before. I say, you two should cease your chatter, Li Bei interjected. Qinghua, save your words for later. Let Mr. Gu attend to grandfather first. Gu Yechen chuckled softly, his gaze towards Li Qinghua imbued with a hint of affection. Chapter 413. The problem with the prayer beads. Gu Yechen gradually approached the side of Grandpa Li Bei, whose name was Li Guang. He appeared to be at least 70 years old. Time had etched deep lines on his face. However, even in his bedridden state, a lingering aura of dignity, shaped by years of experience, still emanated from him. According to Li Bei's earlier introduction, the elderly gentleman had been a retired commander of a military district, holding a high position in the army and dedicating a significant portion of his life to the peace and stability of the nation. Gu Yechen slightly bent down, carefully observing the old man's features, then extended his hand to gently place it on the old man's wrist to take his pulse. The moment his fingers made contact with the pulse, his brow furrowed slightly, a flicker of doubt washing over him. Although the old man and Apos' pulse was somewhat weak, it still retained a certain strength. However, his bodily functions exhibited severe signs of regression, akin to a feeling of being cursed. The Li Bei siblings watched Gu Yechen's every move with bated breath, their hearts growing increasingly tense as they saw his furrowed brow. They understood better than anyone that their grandfather's health was deteriorating rapidly, and that time was short. In truth, they had mentally prepared themselves. Even if their grandfather's illness could not be cured, they would be content as long as they could alleviate some of his suffering. How is it? Li Qinghua could no longer suppress her anxiety and was the first to inquire of Gu Yechen. Her voice trembled slightly, her eyes filled with concern. It appears that the old gentleman has been cursed, Gu Yechen replied, lifting his gaze to meet hers with a calm expression. Cursed? Li Qinghua was momentarily stunned. The term both foreign and chilling to her. She had never imagined that the cause of her grandfather's ailment could be attributed to such an extraordinary reason. Upon hearing the word cursed, Li Bei felt a heavy weight in his heart, a surge of anger bubbling within him. His expression darkened instantly, his tightly clenched fists trembling slightly, clearly indicating his extreme fury. Mr. Gu, do you know how to break the curse? Li Bei forced himself to suppress his inner rage, hesitatingly looking at Gu Yechen. Although he had heard of curses, they were mere hearsay, and he was uncertain whether Gu Yechen truly possessed the ability to dispel it. Li Qinghua also cast a worried glance at Gu Yechen, her eyes pleading, as if her grandfather and Apos' salvation depended solely on his nod. Gu Yechen slowly rose to his feet, arms crossed, fingers instinctively stroking his chin, his expression grave. With his abilities, infusing spiritual energy into the old man's body and resolving the curse was not difficult. However, he sensed that there might be other, undisclosed secrets hidden within the old man's condition. Dispelling the curse is not particularly challenging, but there seems to be something else present in this room. The old man's pulse does not indicate a major problem, so it is likely that an external force is affecting him, Gu Yechen said solemnly to Li Bei. He then shifted his gaze to Li Bei's wrist, adding, furthermore, the prayer beads you possess are likely the source of the issue. They may be of no use and could be detrimental to your health. Li Bei was momentarily taken aback, instinctively glancing at the string of prayer beads he had worn for many years. He had spent a considerable amount of money and effort to acquire these beads, cherishing them as treasures. How could they possibly have a negative impact on his health? Li Qingyue also directed a look of surprise at her brother and Apos' wrist, recalling that her brother and Apos' health had begun to decline only after he started wearing the prayer beads. Do you not believe it? You can take the beads off and feel for yourself, Gu Yechen suggested, noticing Li Bei and Apos' hesitation. Mr. Gu, what exactly are these? Li Bei asked as he slowly removed the beads. At the moment the beads left his wrist, he inexplicably felt a sense of lightness, which made him more inclined to believe Gu Yechen and Apos' words. They are made from the bones of the deceased, and these bones carry a heavy grudge. Their souls have transformed into spirits, Gu Yechen remarked with a slight smile. However, this smile sent a chill down the spines of Li Bei and Li Qingyue, leaving them momentarily dumbfounded. Li Bei could hardly believe that the prayer beads he cherished were crafted from the bones of the dead. Filled with resentment, he looked at the beads in his hand as if he were staring at something terrifying, abruptly tossing the two strands onto the table, vowing to dispose of them after the matter was resolved, never wishing to lay eyes on them again. The genuine beads can be kept. They are authentic, Gu Yechen clarified. Fortunately, you possess a set of genuine prayer beads, which allows you to suppress the other cursed bones. After hearing Gu Yechen's explanation, Li Bei once again tucked the confirmed genuine beads away, his expression still marked by gravity. Gu Yechen then turned to stand behind Grandpa Li, furrowing his brow. Taking a deep breath, he extended his hands and gently tapped the old man and Apos' back a few times. This seemingly casual action left the Li Bei siblings puzzled, their hearts filled with uncertainty. Gu Yechen focused intently, controlling his spiritual energy to gently permeate the old man's body, cautiously nurturing his condition. Simultaneously, the spiritual energy acted like a sharp blade, precisely targeting the curse and swiftly eliminating it. Meanwhile, the person responsible for the curse, wherever they were, experienced a powerful backlash at that very moment. Grandpa, as they observed Gu Yechen's actions and saw their grandfather's complexion gradually becoming more vibrant, the Li Bei siblings could not help but exclaim in unison, their voices brimming with surprise and excitement. Is he a celestial being? Li Qingyue, coming back to her senses, looked at Gu Yechen in astonishment. At that moment, a faint glow enveloped Gu Yechen, making him appear as though he had stepped out of a painting, emanating a powerful aura. Soon, Gu Yechen concluded the treatment and slowly emerged from his seated position. My grandfather is going to be all right? Li Bei inquired eagerly, his eyes filled with hope. The situation is not grave, but does your grandfather possess any other objects of interest? Gu Yechen asked with a serious expression. Yes. A friend of my grandfather gifted him another set of prayer beads, Li Bei replied. Upon hearing this, Gu Yechen furrowed his brow, already suspecting the nature of these beads. Seeing Gu Yechen's expression, Li Bei could hardly deny the implication. It was likely that these so-called prayer beads also harbored issues. At least your prayer beads are made from the same person's bones, but your grandfather's beads are crafted from the bones of 18 different men and women, which is extraordinarily terrifying for an ordinary person. It is truly a miracle that your grandfather has survived this long, Gu Yechen stated gravely. At that moment, the string of prayer beads on the table before Li Bei began to move as if manipulated by an invisible force, slowly hovering in the air and turning towards Gu Yechen. Chapter 414. Healing Li Guang, is there something amiss? Gu Yechen inquired calmly, gazing at the prayer beads. Sir, I wish to request your assistance in gathering my ashes so that I may be reborn, the beads suddenly uttered, the voice seemingly emanating from a distant realm, imbued with a hint of pleading. This scene was exceedingly bizarre, causing Li Qingyue to recoil several steps, her complexion paling dramatically. Even Li Bei, with his steadfast nature, felt a tremor within, his body momentarily stiffening. I cannot assist you, for I have my own pressing matters to attend to. Your plight pales in comparison to mine. However, you seem to share a profound connection with Li Bei. Perhaps he can aid you, Gu Yechen remarked with a smile, a playful glint in his eyes as he regarded Li Bei. Me. Li Bei instinctively took a small step back, momentarily bewildered, unable to fathom why the prayer beads would suddenly address him, nor why Gu Yechen would shift this burden onto him. Fear not. The owner of these beads was not malevolent in life, nor in death. The absorption of your fortune, which has adversely affected your health, was merely an attempt to awaken. Gu Yechen explained with a reassuring smile. Is that so? Li Bei and Apos' expression turned grave. He found it difficult to accept this situation, given the suffering his own body had endured due to the beads. I have said all that needs to be said. There is nothing more to discuss. Gu Yechen stretched lazily. Young man, I thank you for saving an old fool's life. Li Guang slowly opened his eyes, his gaze warm as it settled upon Gu Yechen. In truth, he had maintained consciousness, yet his body had been overwhelmed with fatigue, shrouded in an endless darkness, yearning only for deep slumber. However, at this moment, he felt remarkably rejuvenated, the weariness dissipating, invigorating his spirit. It is but a duty, esteemed elder. You are a hero of our Wagwa, Gu Yechen replied with a smile. His eyes filled with respect. Yechen, might you disclose my condition? Li Guang, fully aware of his health, understood that although Gu Yechen's treatment had yielded some recovery, his foundation had been severely compromised. He realized his time was likely limited. A year at most. Gu Yechen pondered briefly, extending a single finger. His tone was soft, yet resonated like a hammer upon the hearts of those present. Li Guang nodded, the prognosis aligning with his expectations. In truth, to survive even a few days longer under such dire circumstances felt fortuitous. What? Upon hearing that her grandfather had at most a year left, Li Qingyue felt as if the sky had fallen. Tears streamed down her cheeks uncontrollably, and her heart ached as if it were being torn apart. She could scarcely comprehend that the beloved grandfather was soon to depart from her life. Li Bei felt an equal pang of sorrow, gritting his teeth, striving to conceal his inner anguish. As the younger generation of the family, he knew he must remain steadfast and face the reality with strength. Witnessing Li Qingyue's heart-wrenching sorrow, Gu Yechen felt a surge of compassion. He extended his arms, gently enveloping her in an embrace, softly patting her back while whispering, "Do not weep. Your grandfather and Amp, Appo's condition will not improve merely through tears. Yechen, do you possess a way to save my grandfather? Surely you must have a solution." Li Qingyue raised her tear-streaked face to Gu Yechen, her eyes brimming with despair and hope. At this moment, all her hopes rested upon him. If he too were powerless, then her grandfather and Amp, Appo's fate would be sealed. Retrieve the Constitution elixir, Gu Yechen instructed Li Bei earnestly. Li Bei was momentarily taken aback, not anticipating Gu Yechen and Amp, Appo's potential remedy. He hurriedly searched his person, soon producing an exquisite little jade vial. Cautiously, he uncapped it, pouring forth a pill that exuded a fragrant aroma. Gu Yechen accepted the elixir, stating, "Esteemed elder, this Constitution elixir may enhance your physical condition. However, I cannot guarantee the precise outcome. With acupuncture alongside, it may secure you an additional 5 years." Li Guang smiled faintly, his eyes radiating acceptance. "Young friend Yechen, any extension of life is a gain. I fear nothing." With that, Gu Yechen hesitated no longer and drew forth silver needles. Li Guang removed his shirt, revealing a body marred by scars and puncture wounds, inciting Gu Yechen's profound respect. Gu Yechen deftly inserted the needles into various acupoints, while Li Bei watched anxiously, fervently wishing for his grandfather's success, yet feeling utterly helpless in his ignorance. Half an hour later, Gu Yechen withdrew the needles. Li Guang felt a metallic taste of blood in his throat before expelling a mouthful. "Grandfather." Seeing her grandfather cough up blood, Li Qingyue rushed over, concern etched upon her face. "I am well." Li Guang waved his hand. After spitting blood, he felt a significant relief, a stark contrast to the previous oppressive sensation. "Take the elixir, brace yourself, for it will be painful," Gu Yechen advised. Li Bei, too, wore a grave expression. He had endured the initial ingestion without guidance, relying solely on his own resilience. "Thank you, young friend," Li Guang said, clutching the elixir. Before opening his mouth to consume the Constitution pill, the elixir dissolved upon contact, a warm current swiftly coursing through Li Guang and Appo's body, flowing along his meridians. He felt as though a potent force was purifying him, each cell rejoicing, brimming with renewed vitality. An hour passed, and Li Guang's complexion grew increasingly vibrant. His previously stooped posture straightened somewhat, even his white hair appeared diminished. Li Bei and Li Qingyue gazed in astonishment at their grandfather's transformation, hope blossoming within their hearts. "Yechen, this." Li Qingyue was so overwhelmed with emotion that she could scarcely articulate her gratitude, her eyes shimmering with tears. Gu Yechen, observing Li Guang's improvement, felt a quiet relief. The Constitution elixir had indeed begun to restore the elder's compromised health. As for the longevity it would afford him, that depended on subsequent care. But at the very least, 5 years seemed assured. Li Qingyue approached Gu Yechen, grasping his arm tightly, her voice trembling with emotion. "Yechen, thank you. I am truly grateful." Gu Yechen gently embraced Li Qingyue once more, patting her back and smiling. "No need for thanks. I, too, wish for the elder to enjoy additional years of peace." Li Qingyue stiffened. She had not anticipated being embraced again by Gu Yechen. The first instance had taken her by surprise, and now, finding herself once more in his arms, left her at a loss. Li Guang beamed at the two, his heart swelling with joy. Gu Yechen's capabilities were undeniable, and if they were to become a couple, it would be a delightful turn of fate. "Ah, Yechen, my young friend." Might I inquire if you are married or perhaps have a girlfriend? Li Guang asked with a gentle gaze. A subtle smile gracing his lips as he casually surveyed Gu Yechen. In truth, he had already contemplated this matter, discreetly observing his granddaughter and Apos' expression. Noticing the affection in her gaze directed towards Gu Yechen, he understood well. This was the first time she had displayed such clear affection for a young man, and he naturally wished to facilitate this budding relationship, hoping to embrace a grandchild in the near future. Gu Yechen was momentarily taken aback, his gaze instinctively falling upon Li Qingwei in his embrace, and he quickly grasped Li Guang's intentions. A slight smile graced his lips, and he replied, "Esteemed elder, I am still young and thus not married. However, I do have several girlfriends." Gu Yechen had no intention of concealing such matters. After all, given his current style of conduct, these things could easily be uncovered with a little attention. He had always preferred to let things unfold naturally and had never made a point to suppress related information. What a fine young man. His prowess can be compared to that of my youth, Li Guang remarked, surprised to hear that Gu Yechen was involved with several girlfriends. A flicker of admiration crossing his eyes. He reminisced about his own youthful days, filled with charm and myriad romantic acquaintances, his emotional experiences quite rich. Upon hearing this, Li Qingyue felt a sudden heaviness in her heart, an inexplicable sense of loss washing over her, though she could not pinpoint its source. "Young friend Yechen, what do you think of my granddaughter?" Li Guang inquired, a smile gracing his face as his gaze flitted between Gu Yechen and his granddaughter nestled against him. An expression of anticipation on his countenance. "Please let me go," Li Qingyue softly implored, her voice sweet and melodious. Li Bei, taken aback, had not expected his sister to speak in such a delicate and endearing manner. Gu Yechen glanced down, observing Li Qingyue's cheeks flushed crimson. Yet she remained snugly nestled against him. "Miss Qingyue is a paragon of beauty. She is indeed remarkable," Gu Yechen remarked with a gentle smile as he released Li Qingyue, sincerely complimenting her. Her cheeks still tinged with pink, Li Qingyue raised her gaze to Gu Yechen, a wave of unfamiliar emotions stirring within her. Being a traditional young woman, she found herself somewhat conflicted about Gu Yechen's numerous romantic entanglements. "Qingyue, what do you think of young friend Yechen?" Li Guang redirected his attention to his granddaughter, his expression growing serious. Li Qingyue tidied her slightly disheveled hair, inhaled deeply, and earnestly addressed her grandfather. "Mr. Gu is undoubtedly exceptional. His medical skills at such a young age are indeed to my liking, but he is far too flirtatious and has too many girlfriends." She expressed her thoughts candidly, her demeanor earnest. Li Guang was momentarily taken aback, feeling somewhat helpless as he mused on his granddaughter's forthrightness. Wishing she could be a bit more tactful, he found himself at a loss for words. "Old man, there is a significant issue with this string of prayer beads you possess. Be wary of the person who gifted them to you. They are made from the bones of 18 adults and carry heavy resentment. Your deteriorating health is closely linked to your long-term use of this item," Gu Yechen warned gravely, fixing his intense gaze on Li Guang. "This is no trivial matter. While I have managed to treat Li Guang for now, failure to address the issue with the prayer beads will only lead to further suffering. Yechen, how can we resolve this?" Li Qingyue asked, her face a portrait of concern, fearing her grandfather might fall into peril due to this dreadful object. After a moment's contemplation, Gu Yechen turned to Li Bei and calmly instructed, "Bring some incense and a censer." Although filled with questions, Li Bei promptly commanded the servants to prepare the items. "Do not worry, as long as I am here, there will be no accidents." Gu Yechen tenderly ruffled Li Qingyue's hair, his gaze brimming with affection. Li Qingyue gazed at Gu Yechen with soft, affectionate eyes, her heart overflowing with gratitude. Had it not been for his timely intervention, her grandfather might not have long to live, and the entire Li family would be plunged into endless sorrow. Seeing the redness in Li Qingyue's eyes and her vulnerable appearance stirred a surge of compassion within Gu Yechen. Unconsciously, he reached out and embraced her once more. This time, Li Qingyue did not resist. Instead, she willingly wrapped her arms around Gu Yechen's waist. This unexpected gesture surprised him, as he had not anticipated her to embrace him so readily. Observing the tender exchange between his sister and Gu Yechen, Li Bei felt a mix of incredulity. They had only just met, and yet their relationship had progressed so swiftly. Before long, the servants brought the incense and censer to Gu Yechen. He gently placed the prayer beads on the table, then took out a lighter to ignite the incense, inserting it into the censer. Wisps of fragrant smoke began to rise, filling the room with a palpable tension. Subsequently, Gu Yechen swiftly performed hand gestures, murmuring incantations. A surge of powerful spiritual energy struck the prayer beads with precision. In an instant, a bizarre gray mist enveloped the room, the acrid scent sending chills down their spines. "Ladies and gentlemen, dust to dust, return whence you came," Gu Yechen solemnly pronounced, his gaze fixed on the 18 fragmented souls gradually materializing before him. Observing the attire of the souls, reminiscent of styles from the early 2000s, Gu Yechen realized the prayer beads had been in existence for quite some time. "Where's this place?" One of the souls queried, its tone laced with confusion as it slowly turned its ethereal head, hollow eyes scanning the surroundings. This is 2025. It has been over 20 years since your passing. Gu Yechen calmly explained. Upon hearing his words, a thunderous shockwave reverberated among the fragmented souls. They became engulfed in swirling dark energy, their already sinister aura intensifying, rapidly permeating the entire room and even seeping through the cracks of the doors and windows. Chapter 415. The restless souls. Gu Yechen swiftly enveloped Li Qingyue in his embrace. Murmuring softly. In an instant, two orbs of gentle spiritual energy surged from his fingertips, darting towards Li Bei and Li Guang, securely shielding them while sealing the room to prevent any malevolent energy from escaping. The three members of the Li family, unaccustomed to such a display, felt their legs weaken, nearly collapsing under the weight of fear. Li Qingyue and Apos, S face turned ashen, devoid of color, her terror palpable. Raised in a strictly scientific environment, she had always dismissed the notion of ghosts and supernatural beings, believing everything could be explained through reason. Yet, witnessing this bizarre spectacle shattered her steadfast beliefs, leaving her submerged in a tide of dread. Instinctively, she clung tighter to Gu Yechen, her eyes wide with fright, her body trembling uncontrollably. Gu Yechen glanced down at the shivering Li Qingyue, a wave of compassion swelling within him. He could vividly sense her terror. Every quiver of her delicate frame spoke of her inner turmoil. Leaning down, he placed a gentle kiss upon her forehead. At that moment, Li Qingyue was entirely consumed by fear, her mind a blank slate, oblivious to the intimate gesture Gu Yechen had just bestowed upon her. All she wished for was for this harrowing scene to conclude swiftly. I advise you to reconsider, Gu Yechen warned, his gaze frosty as it swept over the group of restless souls. If you persist in your folly, you may find yourselves incapable of reincarnation, your essences irrevocably scattered. The leader of the souls, filled with resentment, glared at Gu Yechen, dark energy swirling around it. What of us? Are we not innocent? Gu Yechen's tone turned icily sharp. If you seek vengeance, direct it towards those who wronged you. The leader hesitated, its fury evident. We have languished in this speed for over 2 decades, suffering torment, unaware of where our tormentor lies. Another soul lamented, its voice heavy with sorrow, evoking pity from Gu Yechen. He furrowed his brow, a flicker of empathy igniting within him. He could envision their pain, trapped within the confines of the bead. Yet he knew that the realms of the living and the dead were distinct. No matter their grievances, they could not linger in the mortal realm indefinitely. You are but restless souls. If you do not seek rebirth soon, you may find your opportunities extinguished forever. Gu Yechen was not heartless, but he could not allow these souls to remain in the living world, as it would violate the natural order and pose greater risks to the living. We seek revenge. We cannot rest until we do, the leader declared, its visage growing more menacing, an unmistakable resolve gleaming in its eyes as it turned towards Gu Yechen. Have thoughts of murder crossed your mind? Gu Yechen inquired, surprise flickering across his features. By consuming you, I could restore my complete essence. Surely no soul is more formidable than yours, the leader proclaimed, its demeanor grave. Driven by hatred to confront Gu Yechen, willing to risk obliteration for a chance at revenge. Gu Yechen shook his head slightly, a mix of resignation and regret washing over him. He had not anticipated the soul and Apos' foolish decision to attack him. It was evident that he must take on the role of an exorcist, teaching these souls that certain boundaries must never be crossed. Li Qingyue observed the tense standoff, her heart heavy with anxiety. She had not foreseen the souls and Apos, intent to strike at Gu Yechen. While he was powerful, the sheer number of souls made her question his chances of victory. Her heart raced, and she clutched Gu Yechen's arm tightly, silently offering her support. Feeling her gesture, warmth surged within Gu Yechen. Though they had been strangers, this shared brush with death had irrevocably changed their bond. Gazing at her pale, vulnerable form, he felt a profound sense of protectiveness. Do not fear. I will keep you safe, he reassured, placing another gentle kiss on her forehead, his voice tender. Li Qingyue nodded slightly, touched by his words, feeling no resistance to his kiss. She sensed an inexplicable connection forming within her, as if a void in her heart was being gradually filled by Gu Yechen and Apos' presence. You seem quite affectionate. Perhaps you should accompany each other into the abyss. The leader spat, its eyes glinting with malice. Startled by the malevolence directed towards her, Li Qingyue instinctively pressed closer to Gu Yechen, trembling slightly. Women are inherently more susceptible to the sinister, and she was no exception. Gu Yechen's anger flared at the audacity displayed towards Li Qingyue. How dare you threaten her? It seems you have sealed your fate, he declared, his voice firm as he moved with swiftness, stirring the air as if conjuring a tempest. Chapter 416. The demise of the specter. In an instant, a purple lightning bolt manifested in his palm, emitting a series of thunderous roars as it surged toward the lingering soul with a velocity akin to a lightning strike cleaving through the night sky. Li Qingyue, witnessing Gu Yechen's unhesitant intervention on her behalf, felt a warm current swell within her heart, deeply touched by his actions. Her fondness for Gu Yeqing had already been substantial, but at this moment, he secured an even more significant place in her heart. The sensation of being protected enveloped her in unparalleled comfort and joy. The lingering soul, upon seeing this, was filled with dread and despair. It had never anticipated that Gu Yeqing could summon the power of thunder with his bare hands, a feat that transcended the capabilities of ordinary beings. Moreover, it understood that thunder posed a mortal threat to souls, akin to a natural enemy, instilling a primal fear within them. Observing the purple lightning charging toward it like an enraged behemoth, all lingering souls quickly comprehended the gravity of the situation. They began to coalesce, attempting to resist the impending strike that could obliterate them. In a fleeting moment, all the residual souls gathered their strength, black mist swirling around them, exuding a terrifying aura that spread like a dark cloud, rushing toward the lightning with ferocity. Gu Yeqing raised an eyebrow, a flicker of surprise glimmering in his eyes. He had not anticipated that the lingering souls possessed the ability to unite their powers, indicating that, although sealed within the Buddhist beads, they had been secretly honing this collective strength. However, even with all their might, they could not withstand Gu Yeqing and Apos' thunderous force. In the grand design of the universe, nothing was more effective against specters than the power of lightning. Even the weakest thunder was far beyond their capacity to resist. As expected, the lightning surged forth like a battering ram, piercing through the collective power of the lingering souls without losing momentum, relentlessly advancing toward them. Are we to be defeated? The leading specter was consumed by resentment, unable to accept that, having just regained its freedom, it would face annihilation once more, especially before it could avenge itself. This time, there would be no chance of resurgence. Should they be struck by the lightning, their fate would be disintegration, vanishing eternally from this realm. Gu Yeqing showed no mercy this time, for the lingering souls had not only threatened him, but had also attacked Li Qingwei. This act had thoroughly incensed him, leaving no room for negotiation. If you ever get the chance to be reborn, remember this. Do not attempt to threaten me, and certainly do not target my woman. For the consequences are beyond your endurance, Gu Yeqing declared coldly. Subsequently, the lightning surged through all the souls. In an instant, a tremendous force of thunder wreaked havoc. And under its onslaught, the lingering souls were reduced to mere remnants, dissipating into the ether like flickering candles in the wind. Li Qingwei and Apos' cheeks flushed crimson, her formerly pale visage now awash with color, as Gu Yeqing had just referred to her as his woman. How could he say such a thing? Yet, why did this thought fill her with such joy? Was it merely because Gu Yeqing regarded her as his own? Her heart raced, and she found herself increasingly dependent on him. It and Apos' all right, Gu Yeqing reassured, holding her tightly, their bodies pressed close together, allowing him to feel the contours of her figure. Li Qingwei, acutely aware of his physical presence, felt her face heat up even more, sensing something brush against her without needing to look. Old sir, are you all right? Gu Yeqing turned to Li Guang and Li Bei, who had long since lost their color but were gradually regaining their composure. And no, I'm fine. Li Guang's forehead was drenched in sweat. The horror he had just witnessed was unmatched in his life. Young friend Yeqing, you can perform the technique seen on television? Is such a thing possible in reality? Li Guang began cautiously. He had clearly observed Gu Yeqing conjuring lightning, a feat beyond ordinary human capability, suggesting that Gu Yeqing was no ordinary man. This? It and Apos' nothing much, Gu Yeqing replied, flipping his hand to reveal another bolt of lightning. Li Guang was awestruck by the proximity of this extraordinary spectacle. He never imagined he would witness such phenomena in his lifetime. It was truly a marvel. Young friend Yeqing, were you and my granddaughter just? Li Qingwei blushed, glancing nervously between her grandfather and Gu Yeqing. Gu Yeqing took her hand, signaling his intentions. Li Qingwei stole a furtive glance at Gu Yeqing, her heart racing with excitement. You and Apos, or what are your thoughts? Yeqing has many female friends. If you are unwilling, I will not force you, nor will I allow Yeqing to impose anything upon you, Li Guang said lovingly to his granddaughter. Grandfather, I am willing to give it a try. Li Qingwei looked at Gu Yeqing, a voice within her urging her to be with him. Deep down, she realized that her feelings for Gu Yeqing had already blossomed. This was merely an excuse. Excellent, Li Guang exclaimed with enthusiasm. He recognized Gu Yeqing's abilities and believed they were perfectly matched with his granddaughter. Yeqing, I have only one granddaughter. You must treat her well. Gu Yeqing, of course, had no objections. Huwoon and Apos' appreciated beauty. Moreover, he had noticed that Li Qingwei and Apos' beauty could rival even Jiang Qinin, and her status as an untouched maiden only added to her allure. Rest assured, old sir, now that Qingwei is my woman, I will ensure that no one dares to harm her from this day forth. I shall protect her, Gu Yeqing stated solemnly, acknowledging that safeguarding his woman was a man's duty, and he would never shy away from it. Wonderful. Hearing you say that brings me peace. Gu Yeqing pressed his fingertip to Li Qingwei and Apos' forehead, a surge of spiritual energy entering her mind. Yeqing, what is this? Li Qingwei asked, puzzled as she felt the sensation within her mind. This is a cultivation technique that will allow one to reach the pinnacle of qi refinement, Gu Yeqing explained lightly. What? Li Guang was suddenly agitated. Such wonders were only seen on television. To encounter them in reality was beyond comprehension. Old sir, please remain calm. This is a method of cultivation. The world is undergoing a transformation, with spiritual energy beginning to revive, making the ability to cultivate a natural occurrence, Gu Yeqing cautioned. Fearing the old man might become overly excited. Chapter 417. The little money-obsessed Li Qingyue. How can one not feel exhilarated? If our nation could also cultivate, it would be of paramount significance for China. At that point, the United States would be inconsequential. Li Guang couldn't and amp, oppose, T help but exclaim, even letting slip a curse. The world has undergone a transformation, and a year later, disaster will strike. The nation is undoubtedly aware of this, so rest assured, preparations have already begun. Gu Yeqing spoke. A hint of nostalgia in his tone. Gu Yeqing was genuinely moved. The patriotic fervor of the older generation of soldiers is truly unparalleled. For them, the interests of the nation supersede all else. It seems your identity is quite extraordinary, and you have a say in the higher echelons of the government. Li Guang observed with a smile, picking up on the unusual implications in Gu Yeqing's words. As a retired veteran, he unconditionally supports and obeys the nation's decisions, understanding that they are made for a reason. Yeqing, can you tell me what this disaster entails? What would happen if we are unprepared? Li Guang asked. His gaze filled with concern as he looked out the window. Gu Yeqing pondered for a moment before deciding to share the truth, feeling it was no longer a secret. The spiritual energy is beginning to revive. In a year, otherworldly forces will invade Earth. If we are unprepared, countless lives will be lost. If China is not ready, more than half of the population could perish in the initial wave, which is a dire situation, Gu Yeqing stated solemnly. Hearing this, Li Qingyue instinctively covered her mouth in shock. What calamity could possibly result in such a loss of life? Her heart was filled with both astonishment and dread. Li Guang was equally taken aback by the gravity of the figures presented, worry creeping into his heart. Do not fret. Our country has begun preparations for defense. And I will gradually lead the troops in cultivating, striving to produce more practitioners, so we need not fear such occurrences, Gu Yeqing reassured, sensing their anxiety. Yeqing, so you're a cultivator? Li Bei inquired. Gu Yeqing turned to him, smiling. Indeed, but I am merely at the golden core stage, still rather weak. Upon hearing this, Li Qingyue felt an urge to cast Gu Yeqing out. How could he disdain his own strength when they, as ordinary people, were far less capable? The golden core stage is already formidable. One must progress steadily and not rush, Li Guang cautioned, concerned about Gu Yeqing's eagerness. Unfortunately, a rift from another realm has already appeared over the United States. They are likely establishing a connection to Earth. I felt a disquieting force emanating from there. Something that could only belong to at least the nascent soul stage, Gu Yeqing revealed, sharing his unsettling sensations. What? Li Guang was astonished, continuing, if a rift has appeared, does that not imply that a transformation will occur soon? Gu Yeqing shook his head. Old sir, the mutations have already begun. You must have seen the news about the six-legged wild bull. I was only just regaining consciousness and had no idea, Li Guang replied, having recently recovered. However, Li Bei and Li Qingyue were both stunned by this revelation. So, that six-legged wild bull was a result of mutation? Li Bei turned to Gu Yeqing. Indeed. It was likely an ordinary wild bull, but due to the revival of spiritual energy, it has transformed into a beast of magical caliber, Gu Yeqing affirmed with a nod. The three of them gasped in awe at Gu Yeqing's explanation. Although Li Guang was unaware, Li Bei and Li Qingyue understood the implications. Even artillery was ineffective against such a creature, underscoring the magnitude of the spiritual energy and Oppo's resurgence. Does our nation still have hope? Li Qingyue asked, her face etched with concern as she gazed at Gu Yeqing. Though she trusted him, the disparity in their capabilities felt insurmountable. Rest assured, our nation has always created hope throughout the millennia, so there will be no issues, Gu Yeqing replied with a reassuring smile, gently caressing her cheek before embracing her. Their relationship evidently deeper than mere friendship. Li Qingyue leaned against Gu Yeqing's chest with a faint smile, feeling as though he had filled a void within her. She did not resist his embrace, her heart yearning for something more. Young friend Yeqing, here is 50 million. I sincerely thank you for saving this old man, Li Guang said, producing a black card containing 50 million. He had heard of Gu Yeqing and Oppo's charge of 10 million for saving his grandson and, fearing it insufficient, prepared a larger sum. Gu Yeqing was momentarily taken aback. He had initially requested payment due to their unfamiliarity, but now, with Li Qingyue in the mix, he felt it unnecessary. Qingyue, do you think I should accept it? Gu Yeqing asked, blinking at her in confusion. Accept it. It's free money, Li Qingyue responded. Her gaze fixed ardently on the black card in her grandfather and Oppo's hand. She had already regarded the card as her own, believing that what belonged to Gu Yeqing was now hers as well. Gu Yeqing chuckled at Li Qingyue and Oppo's avaricious demeanor, then kissed her forehead, and said, "Very well. I shall heed your advice." He released Li Qingwei, approached Li Guang, and accepted the black card. "Thank you, old sir. As for the cultivation methods, I can have Qingwei pass them on to you. Strengthening your body may aid in your recovery." Gu Yechen handed the black card to Li Qingwei, and the two joined hands as they exited the room. "Bayer, what do you think of young friend Yechen?" Li Guang inquired, his voice steady and devoid of the frailty he had shown earlier. Li Bei observed the departing figures, somewhat astonished. Was their relationship evolving too rapidly? They had only just met, and yet they were already together, especially considering his sister was aware of Gu Yechen's numerous female acquaintances. This did not align with her usual character. "I'm talking to you, are you listening?" Li Guang noticed his grandson lost in thought, and promptly delivered a light kick to his backside. Despite his age, the old man managed to send Li Bei stumbling. Li Bei turned in irritation, ready to snap at whom he thought was a stranger, but upon recognizing his grandfather, he quelled his anger. "We may not know much about Gu Yechen, but anyone whom the nation regards with such importance must be extraordinary, and with so many women by his side. His character must be commendable." Li Bei contemplated silently, glancing at his grandfather with an expression of disbelief. Chapter 418. Li Qingyue's first kiss upon exiting the Li residence. Dusk quietly enveloped the entire city. As the lights began to gleam, the illumination from the Li family manor exuded a gentle radiance. "Let us go? I shall take you out for dinner." Li Qingyue, adorned in an exquisite black gown, accentuated her graceful figure perfectly. Her outstanding demeanor radiated an innate nobility and elegance, an aura brimming with undeniable allure. At this moment, she naturally intertwined her arm with Gu Yechen's, resembling a pair of perfect lovers. This scene was inadvertently witnessed by the driver, who widened his eyes in disbelief. In his mind, Li Qingyue had always been as frigid as an iceberg, perpetually projecting an air of aloofness. Yet tonight, she willingly clung to another's arm, leaving him astounded. "Where shall we dine?" Gu Yechen lowered his gaze slightly to meet hers. His eyes filled with affection as he offered her a warm smile. His ethereal charm possessed an invisible magnetism that rendered Li Qingyue increasingly enchanted. "To a banquet. I currently lack a partner." Li Qingyue replied with a sweet smile, her expression as enchanting as a blooming flower. This smile starkly contrasted her usual cool demeanor. But it was only before Gu Yechen that she revealed this delightful, feminine charm. "Do you expect me to attend the banquet in this attire?" Gu Yechen gently pinched her soft cheek, his touch tender. Li Qingyue tilted her head, admiring him with sparkling eyes. Then, she rose on her toes and bestowed a light kiss on his cheek, her face alight with joy as she proclaimed, "My man looks good in anything." Gu Yechen was momentarily taken aback, instinctively touching the spot where she had kissed him, his expression one of astonishment. He had never anticipated that the seemingly aloof Li Qingyue would exhibit such boldness. "Are you aware that you are playing with fire?" Gu Yechen gently stroked her silken hair, gazing at her with a tenderness that concealed a smoldering intensity, as if he could devour her whole in the next moment. "Come, I shall take you to try on some outfits. Although you look stunning in anything, I wish for others to see your finest self." In the car, Li Qingyue nestled against Gu Yechen's chest like a languid kitten, her eyes brimming with delight. Upon witnessing this, the driver discreetly raised the partition. He understood that such a sweet scene was not for his casual observation. To preserve his job and avoid dismissal, he prudently chose to remain oblivious. "Do you wish for me to support you in this?" Gu Yechen's lips curled into a confident smile. Such matters suited him well, for he possessed absolute confidence in his looks and charm. After all, he was blessed with innate handsomeness. "Tonight is a celebration for one of my grandfather's war comrades, and I represent the Li family at this banquet. Therefore, you must keep an eye on me, for I am pursued by many." Li Qingyue's lips curved into a playful grin, her heart brimming with joy as she reveled in the intimacy of resting against Gu Yechen's chest. Feeling the rhythm of his heartbeat, Gu Yechen's heart swelled with a different sentiment upon hearing this. He gently draped his left arm around her neck, tenderly resting it on her shoulder, before slightly tilting his head down. Li Qingyue, still lost in the sweetness of the moment, was suddenly caught off guard as Gu Yechen gently lifted her chin with his right hand. She blinked, momentarily stunned, and before she could react, Gu Yechen had lowered his head to capture her lips in a kiss. In an instant, the atmosphere within the car seemed to freeze, silent save for their soft breaths. Li Qingyue was bewildered, her eyes wide with disbelief, fixated on Gu Yechen, her mind swirling with incredulity. However, the warmth of his lips unmistakably assured her that this was no dream. In that fleeting moment, she felt an inexplicable force drawing her in, and instinctively, she extended her tongue to gently caress Gu Yechen's lips. A peculiar sensation washed over her. Li Qingyue felt an odd ripple within her, astonished that such thoughts could arise, and even more so at how delightful this feeling was, rendering her unable to resist. Though she had previously watched films depicting similar moments and grasped the basic concept of kissing, she had never engaged in it herself. Yet now, under Gu Yechen and Amp Oppo's guidance, she felt transformed. Gu Yechen, sensing her innocent and bewildered response, felt a surge of joy. At that moment, Li Qingwei resembled a blank canvas, and Gu Yechen gently orchestrated her emotions, gradually guiding her in the art of kissing. Breathlessly, Li Qingwei surrendered to the passionate and sweet atmosphere, completely enveloped in the unfamiliar yet thrilling sensation of Gu Yechen's ardent kiss, leaving her in a euphoric daze. After approximately 3 minutes, Gu Yechen slowly released her. His eyes filled with affection as he gazed at the blushing beauty before him. He understood that their relationship had progressed significantly with that heartfelt kiss. Li Qingyue's enthusiastic response during the kiss filled him with immense gratification. "You are bullying me," Li Qingyue exclaimed softly, her cheeks flushed like the evening sky. She instinctively licked her lips, seemingly savoring the delightful experience, her heart brimming with joy and shyness. She then nestled back against Gu Yechen and Appo's chest, savoring the strength of his heartbeat, feeling a profound sense of tranquility. "You have taken my first kiss. You must be responsible for me from now on and cannot let me down, for I cannot bear your departure." Li Qingwei raised her gaze, her eyes resolute as she spoke each word deliberately. Her perspective on love was pure and unwavering. Once she entrusted her heart to another, she was committed to that person for a lifetime. Should she ever be betrayed, she could hardly fathom what choices she might make. Perhaps finding a solitary place to quietly conclude her own story. "Rest assured, I cherish you too much to ever abandon you." Gu Yechen gently kissed her forehead, their lips barely brushing, yet the tenderness remained profound. Li Qingyue closed her eyes, basking in this affectionate moment, her heart brimming with happiness. At that instant, it felt as if the world had come to a standstill, leaving only her and Gu Yechen. "Miss, we have arrived." The driver's voice abruptly shattered the sweet ambience. Chapter 419. Li Qingyue is harassed. Understood. Wait a moment. Li Qingyue's tone instantly reverted to its usual icy demeanor. The earlier bashful woman seemingly vanished without a trace. Yet, when she turned to gaze at Gu Yechen, her eyes brimmed with tenderness. She delicately retrieved her lip balm and, facing the car's mirror, meticulously reapplied it to her lips, which had been slightly smeared from their kiss. In no time, her lips regained their luscious allure, and she once again embodied an air of cold elegance, revealing the demeanor of a highborn lady from the capital. "Let us go, Achin," Li Qingwei said with a faint smile, her expression as captivating as a burst of fireworks. Gu Yechen opened the car door for her, donning a charming smile as he softly chuckled. "Come, my princess." He then bent his arm in an inviting manner, waiting for her to step out. With graceful strides, Li Qingwei emerged from the car, her long, fair legs exuding a powerful aura that commanded attention. Onlookers were spellbound by her beauty and poise, their eyes filled with envy as they marveled at the sight. They recognized her identity and status, daring not to disrespect her, but instead admiring this breathtaking scene from a distance. "Seems you are quite popular," Gu Yechen remarked with a slight smile, fully aware of the reactions surrounding them. A mix of pride and amusement filled his heart. He certainly wished to deter any covetous gazes directed toward Li Qingyue. "Are you jealous?" Li Qingyue tilted her head slightly, looping her arm through Gu Yechen's, her eyes sparkling with playful mischief. Gu Yechen gently shook his head, a confident and affectionate smile gracing his lips as he replied, "I am not jealous, for you belong to me." With that declaration, he pressed another gentle kiss on her lips, this brief caress brimming with emotion. The crowd witnessed the scene, their expressions turning to shock as if they could hear the sound of their hearts shattering, each piece falling to the ground. Who would have thought that a lady of such stature would be kissed in public without a hint of resistance? Jealousy filled the onlookers, their glares directed at Gu Yechen, as if they wished to consume him whole. "Is this your way of declaring that I am yours?" Li Qingyue chuckled softly, savoring the reactions around her, her heart brimming with sweetness. She remained oblivious to the gazes of others, for at that moment, her world revolved solely around Gu Yechen. "What can I do? After all, they covet my woman." Gu Yechen tenderly caressed her cheek, his gaze filled with affection. "Let us go, my little man," Li Qingyue said as she linked arms with Gu Yechen, stepping lightly toward the shopping mall. They made their way to a place frequented by Li Qingyue, filled with fashionable women's attire and high-quality men's wear. She silently resolved to make Gu Yechen the most dashing man in the world, for he was the man she adored, and she wanted everyone to witness his charm and grace. Upon entering the mall, the opulent crystal chandeliers cast a gentle glow, illuminating the polished marble floor and refracting a kaleidoscope of colors. Surrounding shops displayed an array of high-end fashion items. Li Qingyue led Gu Yechen through the men's clothing sections. "How about this one?" Li Qingyue picked up a deep blue suit, gesturing it against Gu Yechen. The fabric exuded a sense of understated luxury. Gu Yechen examined the suit, nodding slightly as he remarked, "It looks quite good, but one must try it on to be sure." "Quickly, go change." Li Qingyue and Appo's eyes sparkled with anticipation, her eagerness surpassing even his. With that, she gently pushed him into the fitting room, instinctively wanting to follow, only to halt at the last moment. a faint blush creeping onto her cheeks as she imagined how he would look in the outfit. Just as Li Qingyue awaited Gu Yechen with bated breath, an unwelcome sound disrupted the tranquil atmosphere. A man swaggered in, flanked by several lackeys and bodyguards, his gaze fixated on Li Qingyue, brimming with unabashed excitement. "Qingyue, here to shop?" The man stared at her with an unsettling intensity. Li Qingyue, lost in her anticipation for Gu Yechen, felt her displeasure rise as this intruder disrupted her thoughts. She turned her gaze away, responding coldly. "Do you have something to say?" Her voice was devoid of warmth, treating him as if he were air. "Nothing much, just saw you and thought we could chat. I believe a union between the Si family and the Li family would be formidable. What do you think?" The man, Sinan, the second son of the Si family, spoke with brazen confidence, his gaze becoming more audacious as he expressed his intentions. "Huh, you, a mere wastrel, think you can compare with me?" Li Qingyue did not hide her disdain for Sinan, her tone dripping with contempt. To her, he was merely a good-for-nothing scion, unworthy of her attention. "I am Sinan, the second son of the Si family. Am I not worthy of you?" Sinan's face bore a smug smile. Convinced that the Si family held a slight edge over the Li family, a notion that inflated his ego to pursue Li Qingyue. "What do you possess that makes you worthy of me? Is it your debauchery, or your inability to do anything but indulge in vice?" Li Qingyue maintained a faint smile. Yet each word pierced Sinan like a sharp arrow. Although her tone was calm, her innate nobility and formidable presence left Sinan feeling profoundly humiliated. His countenance darkened instantly at her words. Sinan felt that Li Qingyue's public humiliation was a grave affront to his dignity. The gazes of onlookers intensified his embarrassment, igniting a fierce anger within him. "Take her away. I want to see if you're as brazen in private," Sinan roared, fury clouding his judgment. At that moment, he yearned to teach Li Qingyue a harsh lesson, to demonstrate the consequences of crossing him. He fantasized about conquering her, turning her into his plaything, stripping her of her pride. Yet, none of the bodyguards or sycophants dared to move. They understood that Li Qingyue was no ordinary woman. Her family and Apos' influence was vast, and any attempt to act against her would not go unpunished. Such repercussions were too grave for anyone to bear. Seeing his command go unheeded only fueled Sinan and Apos' rage. Not only was he humiliated by Li Qingyue, but now his own subordinates were defying him, an indignity he could not swallow. "Either take her away, or you all can leave. The Si family does not need disobedient lackeys. Choose wisely." Sinan glared at Li Qingyue, his eyes ablaze with madness. Resolute, he declared that no matter the consequences, he would possess Li Qingyue today. He had already envisioned capturing her on video and turning her into his eternal slave, a tool for his whims. "My apologies, Miss Li. We find ourselves in a predicament. Do not cast blame upon us." Several bodyguards displayed signs of hesitation. Yet under Sinan's coercion, they resolutely approached Li Qingyue. Although fear of the Li family's retribution lingered in their minds, a greater dread of the current punishment from the Si family compelled them to obey Sinan's orders. Li Qingyue maintained her composure, yet a sense of anxiety gnawed at her heart. She could scarcely believe that Sinan would dare to act so brazenly in broad daylight. Should this incident transpire, it would undoubtedly plunge the Li and Si families into an irreconcilable conflict. "Are you certain you wish to proceed with this course of action? Bear in mind that the Li family is not to be trifled with. The Si family cannot shelter you, and you will only suffer a more tragic fate," Li Qingyue asserted solemnly, her formidable presence momentarily instilling trepidation in the bodyguards, causing them to falter. We have no choice. So we hope Miss Li will not hold it against us." With that, they gritted their teeth and continued towards Li Qingyue. Observing this, two bodyguards positioned themselves protectively in front of her. Their imposing figures and serious expressions conveyed the gravity of the situation. The opposing bodyguards, both in number and strength, were formidable, yet their singular thought was to protect Li Qingyue at all costs. "Miss, please escape. We will hold them off," the two bodyguards declared, adopting defensive stances, their eyes resolute as they prepared to fight fiercely for Li Qingyue's chance to flee. "Planning to run? Do you believe you can escape?" Sinan leered at Li Qingyue, his eyes glimmering with avarice. He then clapped his hands gently. In an instant, 10 more individuals appeared on the scene, their calm demeanor betraying their martial prowess, emanating a powerful aura exceeding the 6th rank. Witnessing this, Li Qingyue's two bodyguards' expressions turned grim. They understood that today's conflict would likely not end well. They faced an unprecedented crisis. The two factions clashed violently, embroiled in a fierce struggle. However, the number of Li Qingyue and Apos' side was woefully insufficient, and they soon found themselves overwhelmed by the onslaught. Before long, the two bodyguards were incapacitated on the ground, rendered unable to resist, while chaos ensued. And Li Qingyue was ultimately subdued. Sinan gazed at Li Qingyue with a smug expression, akin to a victor surveying his spoils. He slowly approached her, a lewd smile gracing his face as he taunted. "Did you not consider yourself a paragon of virtue? Once I administer the aphrodisiac, You shall wish for death rather than endure my advances. I will cast you down from your pedestal and teach you the folly of crossing certain individuals, ensuring you become my lifelong outlet for frustration. Li Qingyue's eyes brimmed with fury as she fixed her gaze upon Si Nan, wishing to rend him limb from limb. In that moment, her sole hope rested upon the timely arrival of Gu Yechen. As Si Nan extended his hand, poised to caress Li Qingyue and Appo's exquisite cheek, an excruciating pain suddenly coursed through him. He looked down in horror to find his hand severed, blood gushing forth in torrents, staining the ground beneath him. Ah! Si Nan emitted a piercing scream, clutching his injured left hand tightly, his body trembling from the agony, his voice now shrill. Who is it? The bodyguards surrounding him immediately grew alert, scanning their surroundings for any sign of an adversary. Are you all right? In the midst of despair, Li Qingyue suddenly heard a gentle and familiar voice from behind. A surge of joy filled her heart. It was Gu Yechen's voice. Instantly, her tension ebbed away like a receding tide, and she relaxed, fatigue washing over her as she leaned against his embrace. Ah Chun, they intended to take me away, and they said they would. Li Qingyue, like a little girl seeking refuge, confided her grievances to Gu Yechen, tears brimming in her eyes as she gazed up at him with a pitiful expression. In her heart, Gu Yechen was her hero, her steadfast support, and confiding in him felt entirely reasonable. With this thought, Li Qingyue nodded to herself, feeling her actions were undeniably wise. Fear not, I too have heard their intentions, and they shall pay dearly for their choices. Gu Yechen gently enveloped Li Qingyue in his arms, his touch tender as he bestowed a soft kiss upon her forehead. Si Nan stood dumbfounded, witnessing this scene. In his perception, Li Qingyue had always been aloof and untouchable. How could she possibly be so affectionate with a man, even displaying a vulnerable side? To him, this was an immense affront. Enduring the pain, he glared menacingly at Gu Yechen and bellowed, "Get away, or I will have you killed." Gu Yechen's brow furrowed slightly, finding the situation absurd. To him, Si Nan's threat was the epitome of foolishness, devoid of sense. Does your hand still ache? Gu Yechen smiled faintly, his gaze towards Si Nan imbued with an air of dominance. To him, Si Nan was merely an insignificant insect. It was you? Si Nan's eyes widened in shock. Just moments ago, his hand had been inexplicably severed, and he had been searching for the assailant, only to discover that the culprit had delivered himself. Chapter 420. A mob of incompetents everyone. Come at me. A bounty of 10 million for the one who kills him. Si Nan's face was dark as he glared at Gu Yechen, his eyes brimming with murderous intent. In his mind, Gu Yechen had to die, otherwise, none of them would escape unscathed today. At Si Nan and Appo's command, the bodyguards surged towards Gu Yechen in an instant. Their movements indicated they were highly trained professionals. Yet, Gu Yechen remained calm, for these men were merely ants in comparison to him. In a flash, Gu Yechen appeared amidst the crowd. The bodyguards barely registered the movement before he struck, sending them flying to the ground, groaning in pain. Gu Yechen brushed his hands together and remarked, "A bunch of incompetent fools, daring to lay hands on my woman." Si Nan watched in shock and anger as his subordinates fell so easily before Gu Yechen. He had never anticipated that this sudden appearance would wield such power. However, he was not one to back down easily. Drawing a pistol from his waist, he aimed it at Gu Yechen and gritted his teeth, warning, "Move again, and I'll shoot." Gu Yechen glanced at the gun with a slight smirk, revealing a trace of disdain. But at that moment, Li Qingyue, alarmed by the scene, rushed to stand in front of him. Si Nan was displeased by her action, and his finger instinctively squeezed the trigger. With a bang, the bullet shot toward Li Qingyue. Gu Yechen, momentarily dazed, could not believe that she would shield him from the bullet. He swiftly pulled her behind him. In the split second before the bullet struck, he caught it between his hands. The crowd, instinctively closing their eyes at the gunshot, was astounded to witness someone catch a bullet with bare hands. "Is this all you've got?" Gu Yechen sneered, advancing towards Si Nan. Si Nan's fear reached its peak, causing the gun to slip from his trembling hands. He stared at Gu Yechen in terror, his legs shaking uncontrollably. Gu Yechen approached him step by step, looking down at him with cold indifference. "Wherein and Appo's, to you quite arrogant just now? Why the silence now?" he asked coldly. Si Nan, pale and trembling, fell to his knees and pleaded, "Spare me. I was wrong. I won't dare again." Gu Yechen observed the wretched state of Si Nan with disgust. He grasped him by the collar and said icily, "To lay hands on my woman, you have sealed your fate." With that, he flung Si Nan away with great force. Si Nan crashed into the wall like a cannonball, collapsing to the ground, unconscious. However, Gu Yechen did not relent. He unleashed a bolt of lightning that pierced Si Nan and Appo's chest, extinguishing his life. After dealing with Si Nan, Gu Yechen turned to Li Qingyue and gently asked, "Qingyue, are you all right?" Li Qingyue's face was still somewhat pale. She had genuinely feared for Gu Yechen's safety. After all, knives and guns are merciless. She had not anticipated that Gu Yechen could catch a bullet with his bare hands. Gu Yechen held her tightly, elated that she had bravely stood in front of him despite knowing the danger. You scared me. I thought something happened to you, Li Qingwei said, still trembling as she nestled in his embrace. Don't worry, a gun poses no threat to me. It can't even break through my defenses, Gu Yechen reassured her, gently caressing her cheek before lifting her into his arms as they departed. Let me see, Li Qingwei said, gazing at the strikingly handsome Gu Yechen, her heart fluttering. So handsome. Here, as a reward, she exclaimed, planting a kiss on his cheek before they entered the car heading to the banquet. Inside the vehicle, Li Qingwei leaned against Gu Yechen's chest, while the driver had grown accustomed to their closeness. As they arrived at the venue, Li Qingwei noted, this is the C family's territory. They shouldn't be aware of our previous encounter. Not to worry, no one in this world can match me, Gu Yechen replied, patting her head as they stepped out of the car. Isn't that Li Qingwei? Someone remarked, noticing her exit with curiosity. Who is that man beside her? Another questioned, puzzled by the unfamiliar closeness. Qingwei, long time no see. As they walked in, a woman appeared before them, holding a glass of wine with a subtle smile. Long time no see, Qinglu. Li Qingwei responded, recognizing the eldest daughter of the Qin family, Qin Qinglu. Their families maintained a cordial relationship due to business dealings, despite the Qin family being less prominent than the Li family. Qingwei, who is this? Qin Qinglu inquired, looking at Gu Yechen with intrigue. Having been classmates throughout their education, there was little to conceal. My boyfriend, Gu Yechen, Li Qingwei declared, her pride evident as she spoke of him. It was inevitable, given his remarkable qualities. The lively atmosphere fell to stunned silence upon her announcement. The esteemed Li Qingwei had a boyfriend, a revelation that astonished everyone, including Qin Qinglu. Is this for real? Qin Qinglu scrutinized Gu Yechen, noting his undeniable charm. Of course, I never lie. You know that, Li Qingwei beamed, basking in the spotlight with Gu Yechen by her side. Yet, in a corner, someone glared at Gu Yechen with palpable anger, dressed simply, their gaze filled with envy. Gu Yechen sensed the intense stare and turned to find an old acquaintance, Yi Fan. Yi Fan, is he here too? Gu Yechen thought, surprised to see him, indicating that his injuries had healed. Upon making eye contact, Yi Fan quickly averted his gaze, feeling a mix of tension and resentment, uncertain if Gu Yechen had noticed him. Though Yi Fan longed to eliminate Gu Yechen, he felt a lingering doubt about his ability to triumph over him, even after breaking through to the 10th rank. Little did he know, Gu Yechen had already seen him but was merely curious about his intentions. After all, those named Yi Fan were not ordinary individuals. Chapter 421. You have no face here. Li Qingwei affectionately linked her arm with Gu Yechen's as they strolled leisurely through the bustling banquet hall, surveying their surroundings before selecting a spot with a splendid view to settle down. The hall was ablaze with brilliant lights, reminiscent of stars scattered across the earthly realm, illuminating the space in a resplendent golden hue. Melodious music flowed through the air as guests conversed softly. Some indulged in delicacies, others discussed business, while a few cast curious glances at Li Qingwei. Qingwei, who is this? A man approached with a somewhat hurried gait, his gaze fixated on Gu Yechen, eyes brimming with scrutiny. Young Master Wu, what does it matter to you? Li Qingwei retorted coldly, her brows knitting in irritation. This young Master Wu was among her numerous suitors, yet he was the one she found most bothersome, persistently clinging to her like a stubborn leech, which only served to exacerbate her disdain. It matters greatly, as everyone in Kyoto knows I am pursuing you. He has no right to sit beside you. That position should rightfully be mine, Wu Liang fumed, his face reddening with anger as he glared at Gu Yechen, his eyes betraying a threatening glint, as if he sought to consume Gu Yechen whole with his gaze. However, Gu Yechen remained unfazed, leisurely reaching for a piece of fruit, its alluring hue captivating his senses. He took a gentle bite, the sweet juice bursting forth, enveloping his palate in a delightful flavor. With a smile, he offered the fruit to Li Qingwei, his gesture flowing with natural ease. A blush crept onto Li Qingwei's cheeks, her eyes sparkling with joy as she obediently opened her cherry-red lips to savor the fruit. The two had already shared intimate kisses, their breaths intertwined. Thus, this act of sharing food felt utterly unremarkable to them. Yet, to Wu Liang, this scene struck like a thunderous blow, shattering his dreams. He understood that while the Wu family held some standing in Kyoto, they were currently ensnared in turmoil. A union with the Li family would surely revive their fortunes, but witnessing Li Qingwei's closeness with Gu Yechen was a cruel blow to his aspirations. The onlookers were taken aback, their expressions a mix of disbelief and intrigue. The often aloof and icy Li Qingwei revealed a tender side they had never anticipated. They gawked, akin to witnesses of an extraordinary spectacle. That man is indeed remarkable, capable of making Miss Li share what he has eaten, someone in the crowd remarked, envy and resentment lacing their tone. Li Qingwei was celebrated as one of the most enchanting beauties in Kyoto, a dream goddess for countless men. Now, seeing her intimately enjoying fruit that another had consumed, especially in such a grand setting, left many hearts aching with despair. Wu Liang and Amp, Oppos, gaze toward Gu Yechen transformed into that of a venomous weapon, brimming with murderous intent. To him, Li Qingwei was a sacred goddess, untouchable and untainted, not to be sullied by someone like Gu Yechen. Gu Yechen, keenly perceptive, slightly furrowed his brow. Anyone who harbored malice towards him had already embarked on a perilous path. His eyes turned icy as he regarded Wu Liang. Li Qingwei sensed the malicious glare Wu Liang cast towards Gu Yechen and felt a surge of alarm. I advise you to retract that gaze. If you dare lay a hand on my boyfriend, I will ensure the Wu family understands that the Li family is not to be trifled with. Her tone was resolute, each word resonating with the weight of the Li family's formidable influence. Yet, Wu Liang, blinded by jealousy and rage, paid no heed to her warning. The image of Li Qingyue eating from Gu Yechen's hands lingered in his mind like an inescapable curse, driving him to madness. In a sudden fit of anger, Wu Liang seized a wine glass from the table, the contents sloshing violently with his abrupt movement. With malevolence, he hurled the wine towards Gu Yechen, hoping to humiliate him before the assembly. Li Qingyue's expression turned sharp and fierce as she instinctively moved to shield Gu Yechen. However, the moment she stirred, Gu Yechen's firm grip restrained her, rendering her immobile. It dawned on her that Gu Yechen's capabilities were profound. Such petty antics posed no threat to him. With that thought, she felt a sense of calm, her lips curling into a slight smile as she anticipated Wu Liang and Appo's folly. She understood that Gu Yechen's temperament would not allow such provocations to pass unchallenged. The atmosphere in the banquet hall fell into a stunned silence, all present aghast at Wu Liang and Appo's sudden outburst. Today was the celebration of the esteemed patriarch of the Mu family. To act so brazenly in such a significant setting was utterly audacious. Yet, what unfolded next left the crowd utterly speechless. The wine aimed at Gu Yechen seemed to encounter an invisible barrier about 10 centimeters from his body, cascading harmlessly to the ground with a crisp sound. The floor beneath Gu Yechen rippled as if a stone had been cast into a still pond, astonishing and surreal. How is this possible? Wu Liang's eyes widened in disbelief as he instinctively stepped back, his face pale with shock. The onlookers shared his astonishment. The angle and force of the wine's trajectory had guaranteed it would drench Gu Yechen, yet he stood unscathed, as if shielded by some mystical force. You see, I abhor when others take a swing at me. The last person who did is now meeting the king of hell. It seems you are eager to join him, Gu Yechen stated, his smile lingering, yet infused with a palpable aura of menace that chilled the air. Wu Liang, overwhelmed by the murderous intent, felt his legs weaken, collapsing to the ground in a heap, his complexion ashen. Young man, for my sake, could you let my son go? Wu Liang and Appo's father, sensing the gravity of the situation, rushed forward, his expression grave, beads of sweat dotting his forehead. Do we know each other? Gu Yechen replied nonchalantly, his gaze steady, tinted with indifference. Wu Liang and Appo's father shook his head in resignation. He had indeed never crossed paths with Gu Yechen. Initially, he had hoped to observe how his son would handle the situation, but he never anticipated such a foolish act. Nonetheless, he could not stand idly by as his son faced potential ruin. Since we are strangers, what makes you think you have any standing with me? Gu Yechen chuckled softly, a hint of mockery lacing his voice. Some individuals always overestimate their significance. But Gu Yechen was not one to be swayed by such pretensions. You. Wu Liang's father was momentarily speechless, his face shifting between shades of green and white. He recognized the gravity of Gu Yechen's relationship with Li Qingyue and understood the Li family was not to be trifled with. Yet for the sake of his son, he pressed on, the Wu family will ensure he is brought back for proper discipline. We hope the young man can find it in his heart to grant a reprieve. Gu Yechen pondered the situation. After all, this was the Mu family's grand celebration, and he had come with Li Qingyue. Causing a scene here would be unwise. He decided to spare Wu Liang for now, planning to settle the score later unless Wu Liang sought further confrontation, in which case, Gu Yechen would not hold back. We can offer 10 billion, hoping you will spare my son this once. Wu Liang's father seemed to perceive Gu Yechen's lack of expression, gritting his teeth and unexpectedly offering 10 billion. This was no trivial sum, especially as it came from his private wealth. Upon hearing this, Li Qingyue felt a surge of delight within her. She hadn't anticipated that Gu Yechen could effortlessly acquire such a fortune with merely a subtle maneuver, and her gaze towards him was infused with admiration and joy. Very well, I shall grant him this opportunity. Once the 10 billion is received, our affairs will be settled. However, should there be a next time, he must not blame me for my lack of courtesy. Gu Yechen feigned a reluctant demeanor, his expression darkening as he adopted a fiercely intimidating visage, leaving a profound impression on many present. Before long, the notification of the transaction arriving on Gu Yechen's phone signaled the successful transfer of 10 billion. A wave of exhilaration surged within him. After all, such a fortune was too enticing to decline. What now? Wu Liang's father inquired cautiously, his eyes filled with trepidation, clearly seeking permission to depart with his son. Go on. Let him learn to conduct himself with integrity and refrain from harboring any inappropriate intentions towards my people. Otherwise, I shall turn him into minced meat. Gu Yechen's lips curled into a slight smile, exuding an air of amiability. Yet, to the onlookers, his gaze radiated a chilling ferocity that starkly contrasted with his seemingly genial demeanor. Wu Liang and his companions felt as if they had been granted a reprieve. Hastily taking their leave with Wu Liang, fearful of lingering any longer lest Gu Yechen change his mind, none could predict the terrifying events that might ensue. Yechen, are you all right? Li Qingyue inquired, her eyes brimming with concern. Although she knew he would be fine, the previous scene still left her feeling anxious. It's nothing of consequence, Gu Yechen reassured her with a smile, then casually took a piece of fruit from Li Qingyue and Appo's hand and began to eat, as if the earlier incident had never transpired. Li Qingyue watched him, her heart warmed. She understood that with Gu Yechen by her side, she need not fear any storms that may arise. Soon, the banquet commenced. Old Master Mu arrived at the venue and took to the stage to deliver his speech. Ladies and gentlemen, today marks my 75th birthday. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all who have come to celebrate. It is an honor for me. I hope you enjoy the feast. And I raise a glass to each of you. Upon concluding, Old Master Mu lifted his cup and drank it all in one go. Observing this, the attendees followed suit, raising their glasses and downing their drinks, as they certainly could not fall short in the presence of the esteemed elder. The gift-giving segment began shortly thereafter. To Gu Yechen's surprise, he spotted a familiar face in the crowd, Su Qiqing, one of his women. He approached her, wrapping his arm gently around her slender waist. Su Qiqing's icy gaze swept over, and upon recognizing him, her expression transformed to one of delight. Li Qingyue trailed behind Gu Yechen, and upon witnessing his affectionate gesture towards another woman, her heart sank. Yet, knowing that Gu Yechen had numerous women, she dismissed any ill feelings. Su Qiqing also noticed Li Qingyue, momentarily taken aback. Upon recognizing her, Li Qingyue's astonishment mirrored Su Qiqing's. They were acquainted and quite familiar, given that Su Qiqing was her close friend. However, Li Qingyue had not anticipated that Gu Yechen had ties to her confidant. Yu Haven and Appo's included Qingqing too. Have you? Li Qingyue exclaimed, dumbfounded, realizing that both she and her best friend were entangled with Gu Yechen. Upon hearing Li Qingyue's words, Su Qiqing quickly grasped the implications and deduced the nature of Gu Yechen and Appo's relationship with Li Qingyue. She marveled at Gu Yechen and Appo's prowess in winning over Li Qingyue. A sense of wonder enveloped Su Qiqing. Both she and her friend had become part of Gu Yechen's world. The thought of possibly engaging in a playful rivalry with Li Qingyue over Gu Yechen filled her cheeks with a blush. Seeing Su Qiqing's bashful demeanor, Li Qingyue felt utterly bewildered. She had never witnessed her friend display such a coy attitude. Then, as if struck by a thought, she fixed her gaze on Su Qiqing. Qingqing, tell me honestly, have you too engaged in such activities? Li Qingyue teased with a mischievous grin. Su Qiqing was well aware of her friend's true nature. Beneath her cool, aloof exterior, she was far from the icy persona she projected. Thus, while she was not overly surprised, the question still made her cheeks flush. Well, it was just once, Su Qiqing stammered, her words sounding scandalous to Li Qingyue's ears. What? You actually kept this from me? Li Qingyue exclaimed, astonished. Realizing that her playful inquiry had unearthed a revelation, Su Qiqing had indeed surrendered to Gu Yechen. Shoo, keep it down, there are so many people around. Su Qiqing urged, her face aglow. Fear not. Gu Yechen is indeed a commendable choice. Your taste remains impeccable. Li Qingyue whispered with a smile close to her ear. Chapter 422. The uncommon Li Qingyue Yu. How could you? Su Qiqing's cheeks flushed a vibrant red, blooming like a flower on the verge of dripping. She found herself at a loss for words in response to Li Qingyue's bold and candid remark, feeling as though she were a girl being teased for the first time. At this moment, the two enchanting ladies were entirely engrossed in their conversation, completely disregarding the presence of Gu Yechen, treating him as though he were merely a figment of the air. Gu Yechen shook his head in resignation, inwardly lamenting, why is it that whenever my women engage in conversation, I become invisible to them? His face bore an expression that mingled amusement and exasperation. Qingqing, how is Ah Chen's ability? Is he doing well? How long did it last? Li Qingyue's eyes darted around cautiously, ensuring no one was eavesdropping before she leaned closer to Su Qiqing, whispering with an inquisitive demeanor. You. Su Qiqing gasped in surprise and embarrassment, grasping Li Qingyue and Appo's arm as her cheeks burned with a heat that felt as if it might ignite. She never anticipated that Li Qingyue would so directly inquire about such intimate matters. Do tell, or else you know the consequences. Li Qingyue feigned a fierce demeanor, her expression serious, yet her eyes betrayed a hint of concern. As sisters at heart, she was both curious and apprehensive about the intimate details between her friend and Gu Yechen. Well, his ability is quite strong. That day, it lasted 3 hours. Su Qiqing's voice was barely above a whisper, reminiscent of a mosquito's buzz. Upon finishing, she immediately covered her face with her hands, wishing to bury her head in the ground, too shy to glance in Gu Yechen's direction. Gu Yechen, of course, heard their entire exchange clearly, merely offering a faint smile without uttering a word. It was wise to refrain from meddling in such secrets shared among women, and he felt assured in his choice of silence. Upon hearing this, Li Qingwen and Amp Appo's expression grew complex. She had heard that a girl in Amp Appo's first time often came with immense pain, and learning that her friend had endured 3 hours at Gu Yechen's hands stirred a wave of sympathy within her. Gently, she reached out to caress Su Qingqing's cheek, her gaze filled with tenderness, the concern evident. Seemingly sensing Li Qingyue's worry, Su Qingqing shook her head shyly, her voice faint. "It's fine, I can bear it," and the feeling was actually rather pleasant. With that, she lowered her head, yet a subtle smile betrayed her, revealing a hint of sweetness. Li Qingyue's eyes widened in disbelief. She knew her friend well. Su Qingqing had always been reserved and shy, so to hear such daring words left her astonished. Instinctively, she cast her gaze towards Gu Yechen, her eyes inadvertently drifting downward before snapping back, her cheeks flushing with a rosy hue. "I have known you for so long, and this is the first time you have spoken about such matters, particularly regarding that aspect. It seems you hold quite a fondness for Yechen's skills." Li Qingwei regained some of her teasing demeanor, grinning at Su Qingqing, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Xiaoye, enough already. Just wait. Once you get to know Ah-chun, you will be the same." Su Qingqing replied softly, her demeanor remaining gentle despite the teasing. All right, I'm done teasing you." Li Qingwei chuckled, then turned her attention to Gu Yechen. "Ah-chun, be gentle with Qingqing in the future, or I will not let this matter rest." Li Qingwei raised her chin slightly, a smirk playing on her lips, exuding a touch of pride, which Gu Yechen found utterly endearing. "You must not have faced my wrath before to speak so boldly. Tonight, I intend to claim you." Gu Yechen leaned slightly towards Li Qingwei, his voice deliberately low and enticing, ensuring both she and Su Qingqing could hear. Upon hearing this, Su Qingqing's face instantly flushed anew, the remnants of her previous embarrassment now fully resurfacing. She inwardly lamented, why must such intimate matters be thrust upon her ears? It would suffice for the two of them to know, why speak of it in her presence? "All right, I too wish to ascertain whether what Qingqiang has said is true. Do not disappoint me. I hope you won't falter at the crucial moment." Li Qingyue playfully patted Gu Yechen's shoulder, a wicked grin adorning her face, seemingly challenging him. "I fear you may shed tears." Gu Yechen affectionately patted her head, with the charming Li Qingyue on his left and the graceful Su Qingqing on his right. A stunning tableau that elicited envious glances from all present. From a distance, Yi Fan watched this scene unfold, fury igniting within him. His teeth clenched as if he wished to shatter them. The resentment and anger swelled in his heart. In his eyes, the exquisitely Qingwei and Su Qingqing ought to be his, yet now, all those he desired surrounded Gu Yechen, offering their affections to him, causing his heart to seethe with discontent. At that moment, the atmosphere of the gathering shifted unexpectedly. A woman, moving with grace, approached the elder Mu, bearing a finely crafted gift box. The exterior of the box was made from high-quality mahogany, its intricate patterns exuding an air of luxury. "Old Mu, this is a gift from my grandfather." The woman spoke softly, her smile perfectly poised, radiating elegance and grace. "Xin-moi, how thoughtful of you. Please convey my gratitude to your grandfather." Elder Mu replied, his expression warm as he accepted the gift box, his eyes filled with appreciation. "See? Could she be related to the Si family?" Gu Yechen pondered, curiosity stirring within him. Her name is Si Mingyue, the eldest daughter of the Si family. However, she has been developing her business in Shanghai City, reportedly owning a classical restaurant called Mingyue Tower. Li Qingwei informed Gu Yechen, her expression serious. She was aware of Si Mingyue's formidable reputation. She was a business prodigy, exceptionally clever, and even her brother Li Bei, a formidable figure in the business world, dared not assert he could best her in competition. "Mingyue Tower?" Gu Yechen murmured. The name stirred a ripple of familiarity within him, though he could not recall where he had encountered it before. "Do you know her?" Li Qingwei and Su Qingqing asked in unison, their eyes brimming with curiosity. They both wondered if all beautiful women were somehow connected to Gu Yechen. Gu Yechen shook his head, a hint of helplessness in his tone. "I'm not quite sure. It just feels like I've heard that name before, but I can't place it at the moment." Chapter 423. Si Mingyue at this moment, after presenting her gifts, Si Mingyue paused as she glanced in Gu Yechen's direction, then unexpectedly made her way towards him. This scene stirred a wave of discontent among the men present, who murmured to themselves, "Two stunning beauties are not enough. Must there be a third? This fellow is exceedingly greedy." "Mr. Gu, it has been a while," Si Mingyue said as she approached Gu Yechen, a charming smile adorning her face as she gracefully extended her hand. Her smile radiated warmth akin to the sun, yet it bore an inexplicable undertone. Gu Yechen was momentarily taken aback. He was certain that his memories held no acquaintance with Si Mingyue. Yet, the fervent interaction before him left him bewildered. To maintain politeness, he gently grasped her hand in return. Subsequently, Si Mingyue exchanged handshakes with Li Qingyue and Su Qingqing. Though they were of similar ages, Si Mingyue had spent her years abroad, leaving her less familiar with Su Qingqing, and their handshake was marked by a hint of formality and distance. Li Qingyue and Su Qingqing exchanged puzzled glances at Gu Yechen, particularly Li Qingyue. They had just seen Si Nan suffer a setback, and now Si Mingyue seemed to present herself as an acquaintance of Gu Yechen, which was perplexing. Did some hidden truth lie beneath this encounter? Yet, Si Mingyue's demeanor did not suggest any pretense. Hello, do we know each other? Gu Yechen finally could not restrain his curiosity and inquired. After all, this inexplicable situation left even him befuddled, with the name Mingyue Tower echoing in his mind, evoking a sense of familiarity. Si Mingyue smiled softly, as if she had anticipated his question. She bore no resentment regarding Gu Yechen and Appo's momentary lapse in memory. Considering she had not actually been present during their last meeting, they had merely dined at the same establishment. Perhaps Mr. Gu has forgotten, but we crossed paths at Shanghai. I am the owner of Mingyue Tower, where you and Cher Qingyun dined, she explained, her smile unwavering and gentle, enhancing her already captivating beauty. Realization dawned on Gu Yechen, and he chuckled. I must thank Miss C for waiving our bill that day. Now he understood why Mingyue Tower felt so familiar. It was indeed the venue where they had gathered after their racing competition. And he had heard about the generous owner but had not anticipated it would be Si Mingyue herself. Though Gu Yechen did not lack funds, it mattered little. Si Mingyue nodded slightly, her smile deepening as she recognized Gu Yechen's recollection. It was a trivial matter, hosting a distinguished guest like Mr. Gu is an honor for Mingyue Tower, she replied in a soft tone. Miss C is too kind. The meal was delightful and left a lasting impression. Gu Yechen responded with a smile, his impression of Si Mingyue favorable, yet she remained a member of the Si family. It was essential to remember that he had just dealt with Si Nan, creating an inherent distance between them. Listening to their exchange, Li Qingyue and Su Qingqing's confusion gradually dissipated. However, Li Qingyue still harbored a vague suspicion that the connection between Si Mingyue and Gu Yechen was more than mere coincidence. She could not help but scrutinize Si Mingyue, sensing an intention to establish rapport with Gu Yechen, as this woman had always possessed keen insight. Mr. Gu is indeed fortunate to be surrounded by such beauties, Si Mingyue remarked, her gaze appreciating Li Qingyue and Su Qingqing, who were both rare and exquisite in their own right, fitting perfectly alongside Gu Yechen. Miss C overestimates me. It is you who embodies both talent and beauty. Excelling in the business realm, Li Qingyue replied with a smile, her words laced with praise yet tinged with caution. She understood Si Mingyue and Appo's capabilities all too well. Such a remarkable woman suddenly feigning familiarity with Gu Yechen warranted her vigilance. Su Qingqing inclined her head slightly, speaking softly, Miss C is too modest. I have long heard of your esteemed reputation, and meeting you today certainly confirms your renown. Her demeanor was gentle, exuding a soothing aura. May I inquire about your return to Kyoto, Miss C? Gu Yechen detected a subtle shift in the atmosphere and sought to divert the conversation. Not wishing for any awkwardness to linger, Si Mingyue smiled lightly, a glint of mischief in her eyes. I am here primarily to attend to family matters and, coincidentally, to represent the Si family at Old Master Mu's birthday banquet. Meeting you here feels serendipitous. Miss C, may I ask if you know someone named Si Nan? Gu Yechen deemed it necessary to inquire. Upon hearing Si Nan's name, Si Mingyue's brow furrowed, and a flicker of disdain crossed her expression. Fleeting yet perceptible enough for Gu Yechen to catch. Gu Yechen felt perplexed. After all, Si Nan was her brother. Why would Si Mingyue exhibit such aversion? Si Nan is my father's illegitimate child. I have no connection to him, Si Mingyue replied coldly, her tone abruptly shifting, revealing a profound disdain for Si Nan. Gu Yechen was momentarily speechless. The narrative of illegitimate children in affluent families was not uncommon. Yet, Si Mingyue's vehement expression caught him off guard. I see. Gu Yechen nodded. What happened? Did that son of a mistress offend Mr. Gu? Si Mingyue's expression shifted noticeably. If that were the case, she would need to inform her grandfather, for Gu Yechen was decidedly more significant than Si Nan. Nothing serious, he merely made unwelcome advances towards my girlfriend. And I gave him a lesson, Gu Yechen replied with a slight smile, unperturbed by the Si family. Si Mingyue was taken aback by his words. She had been discreetly investigating Gu Yechen and was well aware of his prowess. Seen in offending Gu Yechen was an act of sheer folly. Mr. Gu is wise in his actions. Such individuals should be cast away to the Arctic, never to return, Si Mingyue remarked, her expression tinged with indignation. For the Si family, Si Nan was not an asset but rather a source of trouble that tarnished their reputation. Yi Fan observed the scene, his previously calmed fury reigniting. Watching Gu Yechen revel in laughter with the three beauties intensified his resentment. He clenched his fists, plotting to find an opportunity to show Gu Yechen that he, Yi Fan, was not to be trifled with. Soon, after Old Master Mu and Appo's speech concluded, the banquet transitioned to a more informal mingling phase. Guests rose to exchange pleasantries and converse. Seemingway and Gu Yechen engaged in further dialogue before being called away by acquaintances. The banquet gradually drew to a close amidst laughter and merriment. At 10 o'clock that evening, the dazzling light show commenced in Kyoto, casting an enchanting ambience. Su Qiqing chose not to linger but decided to depart early. Where are you rushing off to? Gu Yechen inquired, his gaze imbued with gentle affection as he looked at Su Qiqing. Li Qingyue shared a similar expression of confusion, not understanding why Su Qiqing was so eager to leave so soon after the banquet had concluded. To her, Su Qiqing was usually composed and gentle, making this sudden decision perplexing. I simply prefer not to accompany you, Su Qiqing replied with a soft smile, her expression warm, yet playfully mischievous. Her gaze then turned to Gu Yechen, and she earnestly instructed, be gentle with the Yu. She is rather sensitive to pain. With that, she gracefully walked towards her vehicle, starting the engine and slowly fading into the night. Li Qingyue was taken aback by Su Qiqing's parting words. A ripple of unease washing over her as she felt a sudden sense of apprehension. Initially, her intimate interactions with Gu Yechen were only half in jest. Yet at this moment, as she walked alongside him towards the car, she felt a palpable tension coursing through her. Let us go, my dear, Gu Yechen murmured, gently wrapping his arm around Li Qingyue and Amp. Apos' waist, his movements fluid and natural. His hand brushed against her delicate back through the sheer fabric of her attire, causing her to shiver slightly. Is it really going to be like this? Li Qingyue's voice trembled, a wave of hesitation washing over her. After all, this was an uncharted territory for her. Gu Yechen smiled faintly, nodding ever so slightly, and teasingly asked, are you afraid? He was well aware of Li Qingyue's tenacious spirit. Thus, he employed a tactic to spur her on. Who said I was afraid? Upon hearing his challenge to her courage, the fire of defiance ignited within her. After all, she was Li Qingyue. How could she be vanquished by mere fear? With determination, she resolutely pulled Gu Yechen into the car. Inside, the atmosphere grew increasingly delicate. The driver raised the partition, focusing intently on the road, while Gu Yechen and Li Qingyue seemed to exist in a world of their own. Throughout the journey, they exchanged tender kisses and gentle caresses. Every shared glance and fleeting touch crackled with an electric charge, quickening their pulses. Soon enough, the driver brought them to the doorstep of Li Qingyue and Apos' exquisite standalone villa. The three-story European-style structure appeared especially elegant under the moonlight. Once he had delivered them, the driver, as if relieved, pressed the accelerator and sped away, having felt stifled by the lingering air of intimacy within the vehicle. Stepping into the villa, the soft glow of the lights spilled across the floor, enveloping the space in a dreamlike veil. Li Qingyue gazed at Gu Yechen with a dazed expression, even before their true beginning. She was deeply immersed in a sea of affection, as though floating on clouds, entranced and reveling in the moment. She marveled internally at the wondrous sensation, recalling the words of Su Qiqing. At this moment, the reason behind Su Qiqing's descriptions became somewhat clearer to her, even without deeper intimacy with Gu Yechen. The affectionate interactions shared during the drive had already left her spellbound. Are you afraid? With everything set in motion, Gu Yechen gazed deeply into Li Qingyue and Apos' eyes, filled with tenderness. Should she utter a word of fear or hesitation, he would unfailingly halt his actions, granting her the utmost respect. However, Li Qingyue shook her head gently. Though her gaze was somewhat unfocused, her awareness remained intact. I want to experience what Qiqing described, so come on, I'm fine. In that moment, she felt an invisible force compelling her with an insatiable desire. Seeing her unwavering resolve, Gu Yechen no longer hesitated and slowly embarked on their intimate journey. Li Qingyue furrowed her brow slightly as a sensation unlike any she had experienced washed over her, one that was starkly different from the sweetness of before. Both foreign and tinged with an undercurrent of tension. Although Gu Yechen was familiar with the path they were traversing, a flicker of concern arose within him as he observed Li Qingyue. He understood that this was a monumental challenge for her. Li Qingyue sensed the worry in Gu Yechen and Apos' gaze, and she realized that the pivotal moment had arrived. Despite her underlying fear, her innate stubbornness urged her to bravely venture forth. Taking a deep breath, she resolutely declared, let us proceed, I'm all right. With that, she cast him an encouraging glance, attempting to convey her determination. Gu Yechen, feeling her steadfastness, pressed on, and soon a muffled sound escaped Li Qingyue's lips, tears springing to her eyes. The sudden pain was nearly unbearable, causing her nails to involuntarily dig into Gu Yechen and Apos' skin, leaving faint marks. Gu Yechen and Apos' heart ached for her. He immediately ceased his actions, kissing her tenderly to alleviate her discomfort. It hurts. Li Qingyue gazed at him with tear-filled eyes, her voice laced with a touch of grievance. However, before long, she sensed the piercing pain gradually subsiding, replaced by a perplexing feeling that was both slightly shameful and subtly satisfying. This sensation enveloped her like a dense fog, immersing her in its embrace and rendering her utterly captivated. As time slipped away amidst their shared affection, 3 hours later, their fervor waned. and they succumbed to a deep slumber, enveloped in exhaustion and fulfillment. Li Qingwei finally grasped the essence of what Su Qiqing had described, marveling at the beauty and intoxication of intimacy between a man and a woman. The following morning, the sunlight filtered through the curtains at 7 o'clock, casting a warm glow across the room. Li Qingyue stirred from her slumber, instinctively reaching out for Gu Yechen, only to find him absent. In that instant, her heart felt as though it had taken a heavy blow, a pang of bitterness welling up within her. She had just surrendered herself to Gu Yechen, and now, upon waking, he was nowhere to be found. Suppressing her sense of loss, she propped herself up against the pain in her body. Every movement felt as if her very bones were disjointed, accompanied by a wave of soreness. Upon noticing the stark crimson on the sheets, she felt a disconcerting daze wash over her. Had she truly given herself away so easily? She recognized that her identity had irrevocably transformed, evolving from an innocent girl into a genuine woman. Chapter 424 Farewell to Li Qingwei. Li Qingwei slowly rose to her feet, her steps unsteady, each movement accompanied by a sharp pang of pain. Not understanding the importance of cherishing beauty, she found herself echoing what Qiqing had said 3 hours prior. She murmured softly, pouting slightly, and made her way to the bathroom. Exhaustion had overtaken her the previous night, and she had succumbed to a deep slumber, neglecting to tidy up. By the time she attended to her matters, the clock had already struck 7:30. Dragging her somewhat weary form downstairs, Li Qingwei was met with an unexpected surprise. Gu Yechen had not departed. Instead, he was preparing breakfast. The table was set with congee, wafting the enticing aroma of seafood. Gu Yechen sat on the sofa, patiently awaiting her arrival. Aiken. At the sight of Gu Yechen, Li Qingwei and Appos, as previously despondent expression transformed into a radiant smile, akin to a darkened sky suddenly illuminated by brilliant sunlight. She approached him slowly, her steps still slightly precarious, each one tinged with discomfort. Upon hearing her, Gu Yechen sprang to his feet and swiftly moved to embrace her, his touch gentle. "You're awake?" Gu Yechen smiled, his eyes brimming with affection. His warmth radiated like the sun, instantly dispelling the remnants of sorrow within Li Qingyue's heart. With a blush adorning her cheeks, she nodded bashfully, resembling a shy little girl. After the events of last night, she had come to understand Gu Yechen's formidable nature, and within her heart, a mix of shyness and anticipation for more moments together with him began to bloom. Gu Yechen tenderly grasped Li Qingyue's hand, a gentle energy flowing from his palm into her body. In an instant, the pain throughout her form dissipated, replaced by an unprecedented sense of comfort, as if her very cells were rejoicing in this newfound sensation. "Let us eat," Gu Yechen said, guiding her to the dining table, carefully setting her down with a twinkle of mirth in his gaze. "Are you leaving?" Li Qingyue inquired, her eyes meeting his as she sipped her congee, her tone laced with a hint of melancholy. Deep down, she suspected the answer, yet could not help but voice her concern. Gu Yechen gently caressed her head, a flicker of reluctance crossing his eyes as he nodded slowly. "Yes, I must return to Kunlun Mountain. I shall not emerge for a while. My next appearance may not be until half a year or even a year later." As he spoke, he could not resist pressing a light kiss upon her forehead. At this moment, guilt weighed heavily in his heart, for they had only just formed such an intimate bond, and now he had to leave. At times, he felt akin to a heartless cat. "I will wait for you," Li Qingwei replied, her words few but her smile tinged with bittersweet understanding. She recognized the immense pressure that Gu Yechen bore. As his woman, her role was to silently support him from behind. Observing her demeanor, Gu Yechen felt an even deeper pang of compassion. He tightened his grip on her hand and said, "Qingyue, during this time, take good care of yourself. I promise I will return." Li Qingyue nodded slightly, tears brimming in her eyes, though she fought to keep them at bay. "You too, stay safe in Kunlun Mountain. I will always be here waiting for you, no matter how long it takes." After breakfast, Gu Yechen accompanied Li Qingwei for a leisurely stroll in the Villa-S garden. The morning sun bathed them in warmth, their shadows dancing upon the ground, while the flowers in the garden exuded delightful fragrances. However, a subtle sadness lingered in Li Qingyue's heart. "Qingwei, this is my contact information for you," Gu Yechen said, producing a small item and offering it to her. "This is a communication stone I crafted. It will ensure we remain connected, regardless of the distance, and requires no spiritual energy to activate. Only you can use it." Li Qingyue accepted the jade stone with care, tucking it safely into her pocket. This was the first gift Gu Yechen had bestowed upon her, and she intended to treasure it dearly. "Rest assured, I will keep it safe. I won't allow myself to fall into danger," she affirmed. Time slipped quietly by, and the moment of parting ultimately arrived. He gently enveloped Li Qingyue in his embrace, savoring her warmth and the rhythm of her heartbeat before kissing her soft lips. "I must go now. Wait for me." After a brief moment, he released her, whispering softly in her ear before turning and departing on his sword. Kunlun Mountain, Zixio Gate. 100 Special Forces soldiers, after 2.5 days, finally reached the mountaintop, each bearing resolute expressions, though their faces were somewhat flushed. After all, Gu Yechen had given them a 3-day deadline, and as soldiers of Huagua, they were determined to give their utmost. Zixio Gate? As they beheld the 3 towering characters, a sense of solemn respect washed over them. They understood the significance of their mission and recognized that seeing these characters indicated they had successfully completed 1/5 of their task. Smiles broke out among the group, but soon they collapsed to the ground, panting heavily. Climbing 100,000 steps in 3 days was no small feat. Even these well-trained soldiers could only reach the summit with relentless effort, their legs nearly giving way. Just as they settled down to rest, a flash of purple light appeared before them, startling them. Even seasoned soldiers could not help but be taken aback by the sudden appearance of Gu Yechen. "Gather!" Someone shouted. The soldiers, who had been resting on the ground, sprang to their feet, quickly assembling despite their trembling legs, weighed down as if filled with lead. Gu Yechen smiled faintly at them. He was pleased with their performance. 100 soldiers stood in perfect formation, their gazes steadfastly fixed on him, awaiting his next command. "Report. Mr. Gu, all teams are assembled. 100 were expected, 100 are present. Please give your orders." A dark-skinned man saluted Gu Yechen, his face serious. Gu Yechen smiled back, addressing them. "Well done. Your ascent to Zixiao Gate in such a short time indicates that you have passed the first trial. However, whether you can remain here is uncertain. I hope for better performance and fortune from you. Now, all of you follow me." Gu Yechen spoke calmly, then began to walk toward the spirit testing monument. This group represented the first wave of formal practitioners, and Gu Yechen needed to assess their spiritual roots before determining their future. Chapter 4:25. The test. An hour later, Gu Yechen, accompanied by the others, stood before the magnificent spirit testing stone in the vast courtyard of the sect. This expansive square was enveloped in swirling mists, intermittently illuminated by flickering auspicious lights, resembling a celestial realm. The spirit testing stone stood solemnly at the center, emanating an air of mystery and antiquity. These soldiers, who were accustomed to charging fearlessly into battle, found themselves awestruck by the ethereal beauty of the sect. Having entered the grand main gate of the Zixiao sect, they had walked steadily for an entire hour towards the spirit testing stone without pause, leaving them astonished by the sheer scale of the sect. "Mr. Gu, where's this place?" inquired a dark-skinned man leading the group, his eyes filled with confusion as he gazed up at Gu Yechen, seeking understanding. He could not fathom why Gu Yechen had brought them here. "From today onward, refer to me as the Sword Elder, or you may call me Xianxiao Zhenren." Gu Yechen replied calmly, his gaze deep and unwavering as he addressed the group. He had already formulated a plan in his mind. He was not adept at managing the intricate affairs of the sect, and thus, it would be wiser to entrust the leadership to Jiang Qingyan or Li Qinghua. With their intelligence and exceptional management skills, they would undoubtedly organize the sect efficiently, allowing him to live a carefree life as a detached overseer. Pleased with his clever idea, a subtle smile graced Gu Yechen's lips, though the others were perplexed and questioned Gu Yechen's reasons for changing his name. Their innate sense of obedience as soldiers compelled them to accept the command without further discussion. "Next, I want all of you to line up, one by one." In preparation for the upcoming test, Gu Yechen commanded, his gaze sweeping over the crowd, a subtle pressure emanating from him. This pressure, while not overwhelming, carried an invisible weight that left the soldiers momentarily shaken. His gaze then fell upon the dark-skinned man as he gently inquired, "What is your name?" Reporting to Elder Xianxiao. "My name is Su Shichong," the man replied, standing tall and responding with a firm voice, his expression radiating righteousness. His eyes reflected a steadfast loyalty, prompting Gu Yechen to nod inwardly, taking a greater interest in him. "Come forward, and place your hand upon the stone," Gu Yechen said, a faint smile appearing on his face as he regarded Su Shichong with keen interest. Gu Yechen sensed, through his sharp intuition, that Su Shichong possessed considerable potential, which, if cultivated, could make him a valuable asset to the sect. Without hesitation, Su Shichong nodded and strode purposefully towards the spirit testing stone, his focus unwavering as he placed his hand firmly upon it. Initially, the stone remained tranquil, devoid of any movement, resembling a serene lake, unruffled by even the slightest ripple. The onlookers exchanged puzzled glances, their expressions reflecting bewilderment. However, just as the crowd was engulfed in confusion, the stone suddenly erupted with a dazzling red light, akin to a blazing flame that illuminated the entire courtyard. Gradually, ancient characters emerged on the stone, medium-grade fire spirit root. Gu Yechen was taken aback by this revelation. He had not anticipated that the first person tested would possess a medium-grade spirit root, particularly a rare fire-type spirit root. According to the information provided by the system, individuals with medium-grade spirit roots could at least cultivate to the pinnacle of the Golden Core stage. However, advancing beyond that to higher realms would pose significant challenges, contingent upon the cultivator's own opportunities and fortunes. "Excellent, excellent. Come here," Gu Yechen said, a smile of satisfaction illuminating his face as he beckoned Su Shichong closer. He had resolved to entrust Su Shichong with the subsequent testing procedures, assigning him the responsibility of recording the details of each participant. Elder Xianxiao, Su Shichang approached Gu Yechen, his expression tinged with curiosity as he awaited further instructions. You possess a medium-grade spirit root, indicating promising potential. You must diligently cultivate in the future. For now, you will remain here to document the details of all subsequent tests. Each individual and Appos' status must be recorded meticulously, as I wish to understand your qualifications. Afterward, I will explain to you the cultivation methods and key points, Gu Yechen said, his gaze filled with expectation, his demeanor warm. Yes, Elder, Su Shichang replied, his expression shifting slightly. Though he was not well versed in matters of cultivation, he sensed from Gu Yechen's words that possessing a medium-grade spirit root was exceptional, awakening a surge of excitement and a sense of duty within him. With all arrangements in place, Gu Yechen departed from the courtyard, his figure flashing to a nearby platform. He raised his hand gently, conjuring an ancient chair that materialized before him. Gu Yechen settled into the chair, closing his eyes to rest and awaiting the test results. Such trivial matters did not require his constant supervision. If he had to concern himself with every minor detail, the path of cultivation would undoubtedly become arduous. As time flowed slowly, 2 hours later, the tests finally concluded. Su Shichang approached Gu Yechen with a list detailing the talents of the 100 individuals. His steps steady and respectful as he presented the document. Elder, here is the list of our 100 individuals and Appos' talents, Su Shichang stated. Gu Yechen slowly opened his eyes. His gaze bright as he regarded Su Shichang, nodding in satisfaction as he accepted the list. He scrutinized the contents carefully, murmuring, not bad. Although the majority possessed low-grade spirit roots, having two with medium-grade spirit roots has exceeded my expectations. He nodded again, a flicker of contentment shining in his eyes. Elder, where will we proceed next for testing? Su Shichang inquired, his gaze filled with anticipation and curiosity. Earlier, 20 individuals without spirit roots stepped forward, Gu Yechen replied, scanning the list before shifting his attention to the crowd below. The 20 individuals walked out of the line with apprehensive expressions, their faces pale and their eyes betraying a sense of despair and helplessness. Most had read various novels about cultivation, understanding that the absence of a spirit root meant they were fated to be devoid of any connection to cultivation. Fearing they would have to leave this place filled with mystery and hope, Gu Yechen gazed at the group below, a twinge of compassion stirring within him. They had endured arduous trials, scaling countless steps to reach the Zixiao sect, their hearts full of hope to embark on the path of cultivation, only to be informed of their lack of innate talent, a heavy blow indeed. Yet, the path of cultivation is dictated by talent and opportunity, without a spirit root. They were destined to forego this journey. With a heavy heart, Gu Yechen addressed them. I regret to inform you that, following the tests, it has been determined that none of you possess spirit roots, and thus cannot remain here for cultivation. Shortly, I will notify the forces to escort you back. However, do not be too disheartened. Our nation is actively developing mechas, and even if you cannot cultivate, you can still contribute to the people and the country through your own efforts. Gu Yechen's gaze swept over the crowd. His words tinged with helplessness yet imbued with encouragement and solace. Upon hearing this, the 20 individuals felt as though they had plunged into an icy abyss. Their hopes extinguished in an instant, leaving their spirits at an all-time low. Su Shichang, witnessing his comrades' despondency, felt a pang of sympathy and quickly spoke up to console them. Do not lose heart, everyone. Although we cannot cultivate here, we can still contribute to our nation upon returning to the forces. His voice served as a source of encouragement, offering them some measure of comfort. You may wait here for a short while before departing together based on the situation, Gu Yechen said, his tone calm, yet infused with a hint of resignation. The 80 of you who possess spirit roots are the hope of our nation and Appos' future, Gu Yechen remarked. His gaze fixed on the remaining group endowed with spirit roots, his heart filled with both anticipation and an undercurrent of concern. Everyone, follow me, Gu Yechen stated, his gaze unwavering as he addressed the crowd. Under his leadership, they marched majestically to the entrance of the Zixiao Hall. The hall, a grand structure adorned with flying eaves and intricate carvings, radiated an aura of ancient dignity, all crafted by the system. Above the entrance hung an imposing plaque, inscribed with the characters Zixiao Hall, which shimmered with a golden hue under the sun's rays. In a flash, Gu Yechen appeared at the pinnacle of the hall, prompting a wave of confusion among the onlookers who were uncertain of his next move. The next test is the heart reflection mirror, which discerns between righteousness and malevolence. Gu Yechen and Appos' expression turned solemn as he surveyed the crowd, his voice resonating with gravity. For practitioners, virtue and character are paramount. If one harbors ill intentions, even the most gifted will stray from the path and bring harm to the world. Though Su Shichang shared the same perplexity, his military training instilled a sense of duty to obey orders. Without hesitation, he stepped forward. Excellent. Gu Yechen felt a surge of relief upon witnessing Su Shichang's initiative. With a flick of his wrist, an ancient bronze mirror materialized, suspended in midair. The mirror, roughly palm-sized, was intricately carved with two dragons playing with a pearl, featuring a reflective surface and adorned with a pair of trigrams above and below. The back bore the inscription Heart Reflection Mirror in archaic script. This mirror, glowing softly like a luminous moon, illuminated Su Shichang as he prepared. Gu Yechen formed a hand seal and silently chanted an incantation. As the spell took effect, the mirror emitted a pure beam of light, enveloping Su Shichang entirely. The light remained untainted, pure white. This radiant glow signified Su Shichang's virtuous heart, free of malevolence, allowing him to pass the test without hindrance. The onlookers marveled at the mirror's mystique, their hearts racing as they pondered their own fates. Next, a second soldier stepped forward beneath the heart reflection mirror. As the light flickered, it revealed his form, and moments later, a pale yellow light emanated from the mirror. Gu Yechen furrowed his brow and explained, the pale yellow light indicates a slight degree of distraction. However, it is not severe and he may pass. The soldier exhaled in relief and retreated to the side. One by one, the soldiers approached for their assessments. Some passed effortlessly, bathed in pure white light, while others, like the previous soldier, were deemed acceptable with pale yellow illumination. Yet, when another soldier stood before the heart reflection mirror, a shocking surge of black light erupted from it. This dark aura, dense as ink, exuded a chilling presence. Gu Yechen's demeanor darkened as he proclaimed, the black light signifies impure intentions. This individual harbors malevolence. The soldier's complexion turned ashen. Originally from the Sakura nation, he had infiltrated the Hua nation with aspirations of serving as a dagger for future incursions. Never anticipating his exposure here, he fell to his knees, desperation in his eyes as he pleaded, Elder, I recognize my errors. I wish to amend my ways. Please grant me a chance. Gu Yechen, his expression icy and unyielding, responded, on the path of cultivation, virtue must come first. Your corrupted heart, even if spared, would only harm the sect and the world. Moreover, I discern you are not from the Hua nation, but rather a spy from the Sakura nation. Su Shichang was taken aback, his face contorting with rage as he realized the man before him was an enemy operative. Gu Yechen's voice, laced with lethal intent, commanded that the soldier be detained. Several more soldiers then stepped forward, all passing their assessments successfully. Once all had been tested, Gu Yechen addressed the remaining individuals, stating, having passed the heart reflection mirror test signifies your successful entry into the Zixiao sect. I will now impart to you the methods of cultivation. However, before we proceed, I must caution you. The path of cultivation is fraught with obstacles, and one must hold steadfast to their heart, pursuing the path with unwavering resolve. Should any of you harbor malevolent thoughts, regardless of your identity, I will ensure you come to regret it. As Gu Yechen spoke, he emanated a palpable pressure, causing all to prostrate themselves, sweat beading on their foreheads as their faces flushed. After retracting his aura, he intended it as a stern reminder of the consequences of betraying the Hua nation. While Gu Yechen placed his trust in them, the uncertainty of their resolve post-cultivation lingered. For power can easily lead one astray. In unison, the crowd responded, we shall heed the elders' teachings. Their voices echoed beyond the Zixiao hall, reverberating through the air. Gu Yechen nodded slightly, gesturing with his hand as a veil of spiritual energy materialized, revealing the methods and precautions for practicing the qi refinement technique. Given their current circumstances, this accessible foundational technique was most suitable. Subsequently, they could select methods tailored to their spiritual roots and talents from the repository, for true cultivation lies within the individual. And Gu Yechen could not be their perpetual guide. Chapter 426. The provocation of the Eagle Sauce Nation, you shall first cultivate at the outer gate. When you reach the peak of qi refinement, you may enter the inner gate for further training. As for your daily sustenance, you must procure it on your own, provided you do not steal or rob, but rely on your own abilities. Gu Yechen's gaze swept over the assembly, calm yet profound. For his seemingly lenient demands bore deeper significance. He understood that these soldiers possessed an indomitable spirit and a sense of duty to protect their homeland. In their pursuit of cultivation, they would undoubtedly dedicate themselves fully, fueled by the unwavering belief in safeguarding Huagua and repelling all adversaries. With a wave of his hand, Gu Yechen retrieved several elixirs from his storage space. These were the spiritual energy pills he purchased daily from the system's marketplace, imbued with rich medicinal properties. Each of you shall receive 2 of these spiritual energy pills to aid in your cultivation, he announced. Additionally, Gu Yechen had acquired a soul infant fruit from the marketplace, resembling a small child, surrounded by ripples of soul energy. I will reserve the soul infant fruit for my breakthrough into the nascent soul stage. With the system's support during my seclusion, achieving this breakthrough will be imminent, he remarked with a faint smile. Su Shichang, from today onwards, I shall enter seclusion for cultivation. You will be entrusted with all matters of the sect. Should you encounter any uncertainties, you may seek assistance at the library. There will be those who can provide you with answers. Gu Yechen systematically delegated responsibilities, knowing that within the library resided a puppet that obeyed only his commands. Indistinguishable from a human, loyal to him without the possibility of betrayal. Su Shichang hesitated momentarily, a troubled expression crossing his face, before sincerely responding, Master Xianxiao. Is it not too early for your seclusion? Our understanding of the path of cultivation is still rudimentary. If we rely solely on our exploration, it may prove challenging to embark on the official path of cultivation. Gu Yechen waved his hand dismissively, wearing a relaxed expression. You need not worry about this. The Qi refinement technique is the simplest entry-level method. As you all possess spiritual roots, it will not pose significant difficulty for you. With diligent practice, you shall grasp its intricacies. Yes, Master, Su Shichang replied, bowing respectfully, fully aware that this not only reflected Gu Yechen's trust in him, but also presented a significant test of his abilities. He silently vowed not to disappoint Gu Yechen's expectations and to manage the sect and Appos' affairs effectively, guiding everyone onto the right path of cultivation. Gu Yechen nodded in satisfaction, refraining from further words, and turned to ascend the mountain, seeking a tranquil place for his seclusion and striving for a breakthrough in his own cultivation. Meanwhile, in a conference room in the capital, Ma Xin and other high-ranking officials were engaged in a serious meeting, meticulously discussing national affairs and orchestrating subsequent tasks. Presently, Huagua faced unprecedented pressures, with mutated beasts frequently disrupting civilian life domestically, and foreign powers eyeing them covetously, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. What is the situation? The Dragon Lord's brow furrowed, his gaze fixed on Ma Xin, his tone imbued with the authority of leadership. Ma Xin contemplated briefly before nodding in response. Currently, all relevant tasks have been comprehensively deployed across various regions, and efforts are progressing rapidly. We are racing against time to complete the comprehensive blockade of coastal areas and borders within 3 months. Simultaneously, defensive constructions between cities are underway to ensure absolute security. What is the situation with the Eagle Sauce Nation? The Dragon Lord shifted his gaze to the defense chief, his eyes reflecting deep concern. Recently, the Eagle Sauce Nation has allied with several Western nations to conduct large-scale military exercises in the South China Sea. Although they have not encroached upon our territorial waters, they have been demonstrating their might near our borders and approaching Taiwan frequently, which is undoubtedly a blatant provocation of our territorial sovereignty. The defense chief's fist clenched tightly, his face a canvas of anger and helplessness. Indeed, for a long time, while Huagua firmly defended its sovereignty, it had been challenging to prevent the Eagle Sauce Nation from meddling in Taiwan's affairs. Upon hearing this, the Dragon Lord's expression darkened further, a flicker of resolve flashing in his eyes. He turned to Ma Xin and inquired, how is the progress on the development of the mechas? He had already devised a plan for a robust confrontation with the Eagle Sauce Nation. However, Huagua and Appos' military strength still lagged behind significantly. If they could possess 2 mechas, he was prepared to confront the Eagle Sauce Nation. Currently, the research on the mechas is nearing completion. Recently, Yechen visited Qingbei and provided guidance to the researchers. They are now employing a phased development approach and have achieved significant breakthroughs. We believe they will be ready for launch shortly. Ma Xin and Appos' eyes sparkled with anticipation, confident in the mechas produced under Gu Yechen's guidance and eager for them to meet or even exceed previous outstanding performances. Excellent. Ensure they are manufactured as swiftly as possible. With just 2 mechas, I want the Eagle Sauce Nation to comprehend our unwavering determination to defend our sovereignty. The Dragon Lord and Imp, Appos' gaze sharpened, casting an authoritative glance over all present. At that moment, a fervent blaze ignited within everyone's hearts. A red passion coursing through the veins of the descendants of Yin and Huang, rekindled and burning brightly. Just then, Ma Xion's phone rang abruptly, revealing a call from Lin Hua. For some unknown reason, he felt a strong premonition that this call would bring good news. Eagerly, he answered, barely containing his excitement. Old Lin, has the mecha development succeeded? Lin Hua, in the Qingbei laboratory, had just completed comprehensive testing of the mechas. After receiving additional guidance from Gu Yechen, the mecha performance had significantly improved. He had initially thought this matter was a closely guarded secret, so he was astonished to learn that Ma Xin was already aware of it. Prime Minister, you knew. It has truly been developed. Lin Hua exclaimed in disbelief. Filled with anticipation, Ma Xin sensed affirmation in Lin Hua's tone. He turned to the Dragon Lord seated at the head of the table, giving a slight nod of acknowledgement. The others in the conference room observed Ma Xion's gesture, their hearts swelling with excitement. They vividly recalled the formidable combat capabilities displayed by the mechas during their last demonstration. The tremendous power encapsulated within a single mecha could even sink a destroyer accompanying an aircraft carrier, an unimaginable force that filled them with eager anticipation for the forthcoming mechas. Hearing Ma Xin and Appos' urgent inquiry, Lin Hua was momentarily taken aback before chuckling helplessly. Prime Minister, do you truly know or not? Chapter 427. Preparation. Am I correct in my guess? Ma Xin asked with a bright smile. Absolutely right, Mr. Ma. After our relentless research and manufacturing efforts, combined with the invaluable data and guidance provided by Yi Chun, we have successfully developed a set of mechs, and another set is already 90% complete. We believe it will be finalized soon, Lin Hua expressed with deep emotion. For this day, their research team had worked tirelessly, day and night, dedicating countless hours of effort and sweat, ultimately achieving their desired result. Excellent work. I will certainly commend you all, Ma Xin exclaimed. His enthusiasm palpable as he clenched his fists, his gaze revealing unwavering determination. Upon ending the call, he turned to the others and declared loudly, "We have successfully manufactured one set of mechs, and the second set will soon be completed. We will soon possess a second mech. Wonderful. This time, we must show the Eagle Sauce Nation the might of our country," someone exclaimed, pride evident on their face as they pounded the table. "We will continue to increase our support for research funding. The mechs hold immense significance for our nation, pertaining to sovereignty and security. We must not exhibit any slackness. All personnel involved in this development will receive double rewards to recognize their exceptional contributions." His gaze was resolute as he decisively issued commands. The leader of a certain department immediately nodded in agreement. Understood. In that case, we must commence preparations at once. This matter brooks no delay. We will set the date for 7 days hence. Any foreign forces attempting to obstruct our nation will face resolute retaliation. Long Zhu and Amp, Apos, eyes burned with intensity, his expression resolute. At that moment, he had made up his mind to resolve this matter. Turning to Ma Xin, Long Zhu inquired, "What is the current condition of Han Bing? Can he still pilot the mech?" He knew that Han Bing was the only one with piloting experience. Thus, he would undoubtedly bear the heavy responsibility in this critical operation. He was uncertain whether Han Bing was still capable, and if not, they would need to arrange for someone else. After being treated by Yi Chun, Han Bing has fully recovered. Piloting the mech should pose no issue, Ma Xin affirmed, understanding that Han Bing would certainly lead the charge. Good. Inform Han Bing to proceed immediately to Qingbei to meet Old Lin for the mech handover, and require him to train more personnel capable of piloting the mechs proficiently within a short time frame. As we continue to succeed in developing the mechs, we will have more warriors ready to defend our nation and Apos' sovereignty. Long Zhu calmly outlined the tasks. Very well, I shall call him at once. Ma Xin promptly nodded and dialed Han Bing, providing him with detailed information. On the other end of the line, Han Bing felt a surge of excitement upon hearing the news. He fully understood the enormity of the task ahead, but showed no signs of fear. After hanging up, he quickly packed his belongings and set off for Qingbei, determined to fulfill his duty to defend the nation's sovereignty. Most importantly, he would once again pilot a mech against the Eagle Sauce Nation, a dream he had longed for. He had initially thought his country would not allow him to take on such a role this time around. At the Qingbei laboratory, Lin Hua and the research team conducted final adjustments and optimizations on the completed mechs, which carried the hopes of the nation and allowed for no errors whatsoever. Meanwhile, other relevant departments were also preparing their respective tasks. The intelligence department closely monitored domestic and international developments, gathering and analyzing various intelligence. The logistics department ensured the timely supply of materials necessary for frontline operations. The publicity department actively engaged in promoting patriotic sentiment and national pride, uniting the people and facing challenges together. They did not shy away from announcing their objectives boldly, seizing the opportunity to counteract the arrogance of Western nations. At this moment, Hua country resembled a poised Eastern dragon, with each individual silently contributing their strength for the dignity and territorial integrity of their nation. 7 days later, with a command from Long Zhu, all combat personnel were in position, and all naval aircraft carriers and amphibious assault ships were deployed, creating a breathtaking spectacle. The personnel aboard the Eagle Sauce Nation's aircraft carrier were unaware of the unfolding events, only detecting a significant military presence on radar, which startled them. Currently, Eagle Sauce had only 3 carrier fleets in the South China Sea, as the others had been dispatched on missions, raising their concerns. Conversely, Hua country made no effort to conceal its intentions, directly informing Eagle Sauce of its presence, deliberately announcing to the world that Hua country was not to be trifled with. The commander of Eagle Sauce promptly notified Tep of the situation and shared his perspective. Tep, in discussions with relevant personnel from Eagle Sauce, concluded that Hua country was preparing for significant action, a situation that could not be ignored, and immediately instructed the aircraft carriers to remain vigilant and report any developments. The commander of Eagle Sauce, upon receiving this information, was not surprised, having anticipated Hua country and Apos' possible intentions, especially as such news had spread widely online. However, it was alarming that they had only just received word of Hua country's objectives. This is the site of our Eagle Sauce exercises. All unauthorized personnel must evacuate immediately or face our wrath. Just as the aircraft carriers advanced, Hua country received a threat from Eagle Sauce, warning of imminent action should they not comply. Hearing this, the 4 senior generals aboard the carrier wore expressions of amusement, having not expected such arrogance from Eagle Sauce. They were clearly underestimating Hua country. It seems necessary to remind them, one general chuckled, believing that Eagle Sauce viewed Hua country as a mere patient in need of awakening. Indeed. I propose we send a telegram to Eagle Sauce stating that this is our territory and that their military forces must depart immediately, or they shall bear the consequences. Another general concurred, recognizing that Eagle Sauce had grown accustomed to arrogance and needed to be reminded of who truly held dominion here. Very well. Let us proceed with that message. Subsequently, the telegraph operator began transmitting the message to the opposing side. In the South China Sea, upon receiving the telegram, the commander of Eagle Sauce was momentarily taken aback, then smiled lightly, bemused by Hua country's apparent recklessness in attempting to confront them head-on, which he deemed impossible. General, Eagle Sauce has completely disregarded our stern warning and brazenly launched a missile at our outer perimeter, clearly a naked provocation, a young soldier exclaimed, his eyes wide with fury as he intently observed the satellite and radio feed, his voice filled with indignation. Since they are so brazen, we should show no mercy. The general, adorned with the rank of marshal, declared sternly. They had already received explicit instructions from Longzhou. Any foreign forces attempting to obstruct Hua country would face decisive retaliation should warnings prove ineffective. The soldiers of Hua country had awaited this moment for far too long, yearning for an opportunity to confront Eagle Sauce on the battlefield in a fair contest. In the past, various constraints had compelled Hua country to restrain itself in the face of provocations from Eagle Sauce, which was perceived as a symbol of weakness, an indignity they could no longer tolerate. Times have changed, with the formidable support of mechs. Although the overall military prowess of our nation still lags behind that of the Eagle Nation, we now possess the confidence to stand against them. Notify the entire military to prepare for battle at once. The target is locked on the Eagle Nation's warships. In response to their arrogant provocations, we must retaliate decisively. The general's voice resonated powerfully, echoing like a thunderclap in the command room. No sooner had he spoken than a missile soared into the sky like a shooting star. Propelled by the fury and resolve of our soldiers, heading straight for the Eagle Nation's aircraft carrier. On the Eagle Nation's side, initially witnessing the missile explode beyond our territorial waters, the crew aboard the aircraft carrier wore expressions of disdain, mocking our nation and Oppo's audacity. However, their smugness was short-lived as the radar screen clearly displayed a missile from our forces, advancing with relentless speed toward their carrier. Intercepted immediately, the commander of the Eagle Nation's forces, upon seeing this, felt his expression turn grave. Having just taken command of the military operation, he was not well versed in the details of prior conflicts. Initially, he had intended to intimidate us with displays of strength, hoping to seize the upper hand in this contest. But he never anticipated our fearless response, a missile hurtling directly toward them, its trajectory unwavering and its target unmistakable. The personnel of the Eagle Nation sprang into action, their gazes fixed like hawks on the radar display's flickering lights, while they closely monitored the live feeds from satellites. Intercepting missiles shot skyward, racing toward our projectile. Yet, what transpired next left them utterly astonished. Our missile, as if endowed with sentience, navigated an exceptionally intricate path, deftly evading the meticulously established interception defenses of the Eagle Nation, then executed an astonishing sharp turn, plunging directly towards a frigate. The capability of altering its trajectory post-launch was unfathomable, and the angle was exceedingly sharp. The commander of the Eagle Nation was struck with disbelief. He could hardly fathom that our missile could maneuver in such an extraordinary manner. Hurry, intercepted. We cannot allow their missile to strike our warships. He shouted hoarsely, veins bulging on his forehead, a foreboding sense of dread swelling within him. Suddenly, he recalled a scientist from decades past, one who could single-handedly take on 5 divisions, who had engaged in such research and experimentation. However, it was too late. At that very moment, the missile struck with the precision of a reaper's scythe, directly hitting a state-of-the-art frigate of the Eagle Nation. With a deafening roar, flames erupted skyward, engulfing the frigate in a shroud of smoke and fire. This unexpected blow was akin to a resounding slap in the face, delivering the greatest humiliation of the commander's military career. His expression darkened, revealing a glimmer of ferocity. He then glared at the launch platform, gritting his teeth as he commanded. Fire missiles at the Chinese warships. We shall repay them in kind. Let them understand that the Eagle Nation is not to be trifled with. And I am not a soft target to be easily manipulated. Watching the frigate sink, his fury was palpable. Understood. The launch officer aboard the Eagle Nation's aircraft carrier also bore an expression of anger, gritting his teeth as he unhesitatingly pressed the launch button. In an instant, 5 missiles surged forth like furious fire dragons, roaring toward our fleet at breakneck speed. At this juncture, the conflict between both sides remained at a small-scale probing phase. To the commander of the Eagle Nation, Our nation had always adhered to the principle of peaceful development, making it unlikely to instigate a large-scale war. He presumed that we would, as per usual, engage in some routine protests and counterattacks. Thus, they dismissed our actions, maintaining a condescending attitude. Convinced that we would not dare confront them openly, let us witness our nation and Apos' capitulation and welcome victory. The Eagle Nation and Apos' leader lounged in a luxurious room in the White House, champagne in hand, exuding satisfaction as he observed the real-time battle reports. In his mind, as long as the Eagle Nation and a consortium of Western nations intervened, it would be nearly impossible for us to achieve our objectives. He was certain that we would not easily offend the Eagle Nation, for that would provoke immense international pressure, and the Western nations would not remain passive. Therefore, he firmly believed that we would, as before, choose to capitulate under their intimidation. Meanwhile, in the command room of our aircraft carrier, the atmosphere was equally tense. General, the Eagle Nation has launched 5 missiles at us, traveling at high speed. They are expected to reach our position in approximately 3 minutes. A soldier, eyes fixed on the monitoring equipment, reported gravely to the general. With the aid of real-time satellite surveillance, every move of the Eagle Nation was laid bare before our military eyes. Since the advent of satellites, we would no longer be at their mercy. The events of yesteryears would not repeat themselves. Chapter 428, The Battle. Let Han Bing pilot the mech to intercept the missiles, while the remaining mech follows us as we advance towards Tai Island, prepared for landing at any moment. The general's expression was grave. Despite the presence of 2 mechs for escort, he felt an immense burden weighing upon him. However, for the great cause of national unity, for the defense of the nation and Apos' sovereignty and dignity, what was this pressure worth? They had long since cast aside concerns for life and death, fully prepared to sacrifice everything, even their lives if necessary. Within the mech bay of the aircraft carrier, Han Bing received the order, a flicker of determination crossing his eyes. He swiftly activated the mech, and with a low rumble, it emerged from the hatch like a colossal beast, positioning itself outside the safety zone of the Chinese warship. This maneuver effectively intercepted the incoming missiles while mitigating the risks of shockwaves affecting the fleet. Han Bing sat firmly in the cockpit, his gaze calm and unwavering as he focused on the direction of the approaching missiles, resembling an unshakable god of war. Beneath the aircraft carrier, many soldiers observed this scene, their hearts filled with confusion. With missiles imminent, why had they not organized conventional defensive measures? What was that massive object in the sky? They were completely unaware, as the existence of mechs remained a closely guarded military secret, known to only a select few. The missiles are coming, a soldier shouted nervously. Upon hearing this call, a fierce battle spirit ignited in the soldiers' eyes. They were filled with resentment, realizing that even before the battle had truly begun, they faced the specter of sacrifice. They would rather die heroically in combat than helplessly watch the missiles approach. Yet, the time remaining to intercept the missiles was too short for conventional methods to be employed. They could only watch in despair as the 5 missiles drew closer. Just as despair settled over them, Han Bing steadily raised the mech's left arm. In an instant, 5 dazzling laser cannons erupted from the mech's weapon ports. This new laser cannon was far more powerful than its predecessor, and in that same moment, all 5 missiles launched by the Eagle Nation were accurately destroyed. The missiles exploded in midair, creating brilliant bursts of fire, the deafening sound echoing like thunder, causing the eardrums of those nearby to ache. The anticipated tragedy did not unfold aboard the warship. Instead, the crew listened in astonishment to the cacophony of explosions, their faces a mix of disbelief. They had survived? When were the intercepting missiles fired? One soldier murmured in confusion. Han Bing, how's the situation on your end? Several generals, witnessing the spectacle, felt a surge of anxiety. After all, the mechs represented a strategic weapon supported by significant national resources, and Han Bing bore a heavy responsibility. General, I'm fine, Han Bing replied, unable to suppress his excitement. He looked at the newly upgraded mech, his heart swelling with admiration. The internal space of this mech was more spacious than before, comfortably accommodating one person, with ample room for movement. The overall design was not only more imposing but also featured a significantly enhanced power system, making operation far more intuitive. The ease with which he had intercepted the missiles was the best testament to this improvement. After successfully neutralizing the missiles, the Chinese aircraft carrier fleet did not pause but continued its steady advance towards Tai Island. An invigorating atmosphere permeated the entire carrier. The soldiers gazed ahead, their hearts filled with trepidation, yet buoyed by a steadfast belief in fighting for national unity. They might perish, but they would do so gloriously and honorably. On the side of the Eagle Nation, witnessing the effortless interception of their missiles, the mood darkened further. The marshal was filled with shock, realizing that China and Apos' actions were not as simplistic as they had anticipated. Yet, he was resolute. He would not relent but swiftly adjust his strategic deployment to prepare for a new wave of attack. What is that thing? The Eagle Nation and Apos' Marshal looked at the object that had easily intercepted the missiles, confusion etched on his face, yet this would not deter his thirst for vengeance. Increase the missile launch count to 35. We must teach China a painful lesson, he commanded through gritted teeth. With his orders dispatched, the missile launch systems on the Eagle Nation's carrier became busy once more, loading and targeting missiles, preparing to strike at the Chinese fleet again. Far away in the White House, Tep looked on in disbelief as the champagne slipped from his grasp and shattered on the floor. Damn it, it's that thing again. He glared at the mech, his anger boiling over. He was well aware of the mech and Oppo's formidable capabilities, which was why he had previously destroyed that unit without hesitation. He never expected that China would have acquired another. Simultaneously, the Intelligence Department of China closely monitored every move of the Eagle Nation, keeping real-time tabs on their military dynamics and swiftly relaying information to the command center of the aircraft carrier fleet. General, the Eagle Nation has launched over 20 missiles at us, and they are supersonic, an intelligence officer reported urgently. The general furrowed his brow, contemplating for a moment before decisively ordering, notify all ships to enhance air defense. Additionally, prepare the mechs for another interception. Also, double the missile counterattack against the Eagle Nation and maintain close communication with headquarters to report on the situation at all times. As the general's orders were disseminated, the entire carrier fleet swiftly entered a state of heightened alert. The anti-aircraft weapons on the ships adjusted their angles, bracing for impact. Meanwhile, Han Bing's eyes burned with resolve as he focused on the approaching missiles, ready to counter the Eagle Nation's next assault. Beside him, another mech appeared to alleviate some of Han Bing's pressure. In the tense standoff, time ticked by relentlessly. The 35 missiles from the Eagle Nation soared towards the Chinese carrier fleet like a swarm of locusts, leaving long trails of smoke in their wake. Prepare to intercept. At the general's command, Han Bing and another mech pilot simultaneously activated their machines, surging towards the incoming missiles like two torrents of steel. Han Bing's gaze was steadfast as he expertly maneuvered the mech's controls. Laser cannons erupted from the weapon systems, accurately striking one missile after another. The other pilot, equally determined, unleashed a barrage of firepower to intercept the missiles. Together, they successfully destroyed the majority of the missiles mid-flight, transforming them into brilliant bursts of light. However, missiles still breached their defense line, hurtling towards the aircraft carrier with relentless speed. Chapter 429. The losses of the Eagle Nation. Attention, all personnel. Activate the air defense systems. The general commanded loudly. In an instant, the aircraft carrier and Oppo's air defense weapons opened fire simultaneously, creating a dense network of fire in the air, poised to intercept the remaining missiles. Amidst the fierce exchange of fire, a missile breached the air defense net, hurtling toward the side of the aircraft carrier. At this critical moment, Han Bing piloted the mech and swiftly positioned himself in front of the missile, firing a laser cannon at close range to intercept it. With a resounding explosion, the missile detonated 20 meters away from the mech, the force of the blast sending it flying backward. However, thanks to his skilled piloting, Han Bing managed to regain control, though he felt a slight pressure in his chest. Han Bing, are you alright? Several generals asked anxiously. Sir, I'm fine. And the mech is still combat ready. Han Bing responded after assessing the mech's condition and finding no significant damage. After an intense battle, the aircraft carrier group of Huagua successfully repelled a new wave of attacks from the Eagle Nation and launched 70 missiles, including 2 advanced 41 missiles, toward the enemy fleet. On the side of the Eagle Nation, the sight of rapidly approaching missiles left them stunned. Their marshal had not anticipated such a swift counterattack from Huagua, let alone dozens of missiles, which left him somewhat shaken. Quickly, organize a defense and intercept. His expression darkened, knowing that even for the Eagle Nation, intercepting so many missiles at such close range was nearly impossible. They could only pray to avoid significant casualties. The soldiers aboard the Eagle Nation's aircraft carrier wore grim expressions as they monitored the radar, fully aware that it would be difficult to intercept all the missiles, and that some of them might not return alive. More than 200 missiles soared into the sky, all targeting Huagua and Oppo's missiles, while all warships prepared for close combat in case of interception failures. Meanwhile, the other fleet was drawing closer. The sight stirred the blood of all the soldiers. As the target was within reach, and capturing it was imperative, they were on the brink of achieving a monumental historical feat. Prepare for battle. The commanding general issued his final orders. At his command, landing craft descended from the aircraft carrier, and soldiers clad in orderly gear boarded them in an organized manner. Their eyes were resolute, their morale soaring, united by a singular conviction: unity. On the surface of the sea, the landing craft surged forward like a battalion of iron beasts racing toward their target. Above, the mechs hovered like guardian deities, providing cover for the landing troops. Various aircraft took to the skies, vigilantly patrolling the surroundings and directly entering the airspace above the target. Meanwhile, chaos reigned on the ground as the enemy had not anticipated Huagua's serious intent. Even the Eagle Nation was taken aback, finding it difficult to mount an effective counterattack. From the aircraft, pilots observed a gathering on the ground that was firing into the sky, an act that seemed to dismiss their presence. Sir, we are above the target, and they are firing at us. I believe we should respond. The bomber squadron leader calmly analyzed the situation and reported upwards. On the aircraft carrier, several generals listened to the report with grave expressions. Their initial strategy had been to intimidate the enemy and resolve the situation peacefully. But it appeared that such hopes were fading. Exchanging glances, one of them spoke. Since the higher-ups have entrusted this matter to us, let us decide our course of action. What do you all think? We naturally agree. It is time to send them a message, lest they forget who they are. The other three concurred with the course of action. Very well, let us proceed with this plan, one general declared. They contacted the bomber squadron leader to convey their decision. Captain Wu, after discussion, we have approved your plan. Let them know our resolve is not merely talk. Upon hearing this, Captain Wu felt a sigh of relief. If they did not strike hard, further troubles would surely arise. This was an opportune moment to remind them of their place. The citizens watched with excitement, their emotions running high, as this was what many had longed for. Having waited countless days and nights for this moment, the government on the ground had no means to counter the assault. Far away in the Eagle Nation, Tep learned of the situation and was consumed by rage. Yet he understood that Huagua and Apos' determination was unwavering. Moreover, the 3 aircraft carrier fleets stationed there had suffered significant losses, prompting him to reconsider. However, he could not entertain thoughts of defeat. After deliberation, the Eagle Nation dispatched 2 carrier fleets for support and sought to rally numerous Western nations to wield international opinion. Yet, this endeavor proved fruitless, as Huagua had withdrawn from every global organization and had long since closed its borders. It was evident that no matter the actions of the Eagle Nation or other countries, Huagua would remain indifferent unless they sought confrontation. In the South China Sea, the 3 fleets of the Eagle Nation intercepted 20 missiles, but 50 still struck their targets, bringing unprecedented calamity to the marshal in command. They lost dozens of vessels, including 1 aircraft carrier, and severely damaged another, with countless frigates lost. On the Eagle Nation and Apos' warships, there was a palpable sense of helplessness regarding the current situation. They had just attempted to attack Huagua's vessels, but were thwarted by the Mechs, resulting in yet another lost frigate. Marshal, we cannot continue this way. We simply cannot penetrate their defenses unless we resort to nuclear weapons, which is out of the question. We should consider a retreat to avoid drawing fire upon ourselves, an advisor remarked, his demeanor grave as he assessed the dire circumstances. I share the same sentiment. But we must have domestic approval for such a course of action. This opponent is simply too formidable, especially that one who can single-handedly intercept so many of our missiles. It is truly astonishing, the marshal lamented, his frustration evident even without words. Upon learning that Huagua had landed, Tep sat in his chair, stunned. He had never imagined that Huagua's determination would remain unshaken. The opportunity to resolve the situation had slipped away. Let us withdraw our forces, Tep sighed, rubbing his forehead, feeling as though his presidential tenure was nearing its conclusion. Such a scenario was foreseeable. After all, no president could endure a 30% loss in naval combat effectiveness during their term, an unacceptable reality. Upon receiving the withdrawal orders, the crew aboard the warships expressed disbelief. Though they too wished to retreat, they would not leave without notification, yet the command had been issued. Relay the order for a full retreat to the Pacific base for rest and recuperation. The marshal sighed and ultimately issued the withdrawal directive. Sir, the Eagle Nation's fleets are beginning to withdraw toward the Pacific. It appears they may be preparing to leave, but whether they will return remains uncertain. A soldier reported news to 4 commanding officers, his heart racing with excitement. This marked the second confrontation between Huan Nation and Eagle Nation. The previous encounter had cost Huan Nation dearly before it forced Eagle Nation to the negotiating table. This time, however, it was Eagle Nation and Apos' turn to bear the heavy toll. Indeed, continue to monitor them. Report immediately upon any developments, a general instructed. Yes, sir, the soldier saluted and returned to his seat. What are your thoughts? The general inquired. Glancing at the other 3 men, he found Eagle Nation's maneuvers perplexing. Logically, they should not have retreated. It seems we've struck a nerve. They must be feeling the pressure. And President Trump may find it increasingly difficult to maintain his stance, a general speculated with a smile. It appears they are cowards who fear the strong, he added, his expression visibly relaxing. After his remarks, he reviewed the incoming reports. The troops had begun landing and encountered considerable resistance, but nothing insurmountable. Notify the frontline units to persuade the resisting forces to surrender. They must relinquish their weapons. We can overlook past grievances, the general stated, echoing the higher command and Apos' directive to avoid widespread conflict. As time progressed, resistance gradually waned, perhaps as they realized futility in their struggle, ultimately surrendering. After all, these were not their battles. They were also citizens of Huan Nation. In the domestic conference room, Longzhu proclaimed, the operation was successful. All forces have arrived and are now under control. Ma Xian gazed at Long Zhu, exhilarated. This was a historic moment for Hua Nation, marking the end of Eagle Nation and Apos' unchecked dominance. Inform the front lines to expel all non-Hua citizens from the territory. They must be dispersed without negotiation. We must also prepare for the year ahead, as this land is part of Hua Nation, Long Zhu commanded after a moment of reflection, issuing a supreme order to restore all airports and transport facilities to their former states as swiftly as possible. Damn it! Trump in Eagle Nation erupted upon receiving the news, his blood pressure soaring. This was the greatest humiliation of his presidency. What should we do now, Mr. President? An aide asked. Sensing the military capabilities of Hua Nation were nearing parity with their own, particularly with their mechs, which had astonishingly withstood nearly 30 missile attacks. I know what to do. What are you all doing? Trump angrily smashed a cup, startling those present, their gazes filled with a mix of fear and anger, yet none dared to speak out. Now, Hua Nation has closed its borders. We can do nothing. Unless we completely sever ties and declare war, engaging Hua Nation would yield no benefits for us, Trump lamented, rubbing his temples in exhaustion. Eagle Nation and Hua Nation were the two largest economies in the world. Conflict would be catastrophic. Even Eagle Nation could not withstand a full-scale war against Hua Nation, especially given their inability to counter Hua Nation's mightiest missiles. Trump understood well the implications of a full-blown conflict. While Eagle Nation might defeat Hua Nation, they too would face annihilation, an outcome they would never pursue. Withdraw our forces. Since Hua Nation has closed its borders, we shall not concern ourselves with them. Their isolationist tendencies will lead to their decline, and in due time, we will avenge today's grievances. Trump gestured dismissively, recognizing the futility of continued engagement. Understood. The chief aide's eyes brightened as he quickly departed to relay Trump's orders. Hua Nation. How unexpected that you choose to retreat into isolation, reminiscent of your feudal past. It seems you are courting your own demise, Trump remarked, a smirk creeping onto his lips, viewing this as a golden opportunity. In just a few days, Hua Nation restored the island to its former state and resumed production, seemingly unchanged except for the presence of Hua and Apos' on-station troops, with all official documents and flags replaced by those of Hua Nation. Domestically, the news spread, inciting immense excitement among the populace, who had long awaited this moment, feeling an immense sense of pride in witnessing it. At this moment, at Zixiao Gate, under Su Shichang's leadership, training progressed rapidly, and the sect was meticulously organized. Furthermore, news of the training initiative began to circulate nationwide, reflecting Gu Yechen's vision of national cultivation to prepare for the impending disaster a year hence, aimed at minimizing casualties. Old Ma, what do you think will follow? Long Zhu asked Ma Xian, harboring some concern about the potential for significant losses. Although they possessed Gu Yechen and mechs, the uncertainty of the future still troubled them. We shall do our utmost. The current situation appears stable, and the mechs are being manufactured at an accelerated pace. We should be fine, Ma Xian replied, albeit with a hint of uncertainty, yet he retained faith in Gu Yechen. Has Yechen entered seclusion? Long Zhu inquired. Indeed, he has begun his retreat. His next emergence could be in 6 months, or perhaps a year. It is difficult to predict, Ma Xian nodded in affirmation. Chapter 430. Emergence half a year later. In the secluded area of the back mountain, rich spiritual energy swirled like a tangible mist. Gu Yechen appeared to be one with the ethereal energies of heaven and earth, radiating a luminous glow. At long last, he slowly opened his eyes, a flicker of brilliance passing through his gaze. His aura reigned and yet subtly emanating an overwhelming power that sent shivers down the spine. Within his dantian, the golden elixir had shattered, resembling a tranquil infant nestled inside. At this moment, his strength had reached the pinnacle of the nascent soul stage, merely a step away from the realm of divine transformation. As he emerged, it coincided with a critical moment when the spiritual energies began to surge. The pace of this resurgence accelerated like a tumultuous tide, sweeping across the nation and the world. In an instant, calamities struck in various locales, earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions, seemingly shattering the delicate balance of nature. However, thanks to Gu Yechen's foresight and assistance, coupled with meticulous preparations, the nation of Hua effectively navigated this crisis, ensuring the safety of its citizens without any casualties. Unfortunately, other nations were not as fortunate. Even the once mighty Eagle Sauce nation suffered devastating losses, with estimates of over 100,000 lives claimed by the disaster, a sight that was truly heart-wrenching. Following the news of the spiritual energy resurgence spreading throughout Hua, a fervor for cultivation ignited across the nation, akin to a wildfire, unstoppable in its spread. As people learned of the resurgence, they also became aware of the impending invasion from another realm in 6 months. In this crucial moment of survival, the entire nation united, forming an indomitable force. Every corner of the country established foundational courses for cultivation, especially targeting the vibrant youth, to build strength against the looming invasion. Upon his emergence, Gu Yechen swiftly appeared in the grand hall of the Zixiao sect. Qingyan, At a glance, he spotted the enchanting figure he had long yearned for, as if his longing was about to materialize. Despite his 6-month seclusion, he had brought his beloved confidant to the Zixiao sect. And aside from a few who could not attend for various reasons, the rest were diligently cultivating there. Jiang Qingyan was undoubtedly the most trusted leader of the Zixiao sect, a testament to Gu Yechen's unwavering faith in her abilities. At this moment, Jiang Qingyan was presiding over an important meeting. Recently, the number of magical beasts had surged like a tide, with their strength growing ever more formidable, placing immense pressure on the defenses of both the Zixiao sect and the entire nation of Hua. Although the era of universal cultivation had dawned, many citizens lacked spiritual roots, rendering them incapable of embarking on the path of cultivation. "Achin, you're out," Jiang Qingyan exclaimed,